Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 74 of the Stevie Richards Show. We're just off camera before we hit record. I was doing the Johnny Ace impression. Hey, you're welcome back anytime, Stevie. Hey, I'll see you on Monday, John. Oh, wait a second. No, I didn't. And he didn't know what to do. But I do know what to do, and that is pass it along to the best co-host in professional wrestling history, James Romero. How are you?
Why would you say that?
'Cause it's
Why would you
true.
say that purposely? Know that so many people will disagree with that.
Well, both things are true. It's true, and
Uh,
also that I knew the comments would be right there for it, which we
that's
will
fair
be
enough then.
reading comments today based off the modern wrestling clip that we have that seems to have, at the time, 1,600 comments. And we figured we'd dive deeper into modern wrestling and what is wrong with it and what can be fixed.
I would like to also do what's right with it, which I know will be a much shorter video, but I want it to be the yin and the yang, if nothing else. But man, if it's one thing that I just feel that pro wrestling is right now, when it's on the low end, creatively speaking, or unfulfilling for fans, it's just like Stockholm syndrome. People will, for the most part, the hardcore fans will just sit there and take it and hope it gets better. But 2025, I've been looking back on it. It's like, man, what a down year. Maybe not business for WWE, but creatively speaking, it's just been a real nothing year across the board, I think.
Well, it is something, and I do have some comments that I screenshotted. I'm sure you did too, giving the other side of the coin, saying why modern wrestling is actually good. There are some elements that are improved over the old school carny nature of wrestling, but that still exists in 2025. We're also going to talk about some of that stuff, but I did want to have both of those things. But I have to say, I scrolled through the comments, I kind of screenshotted randomly. It is pretty much in the high 90s of people that say, I stopped watching that. Then the authority was actually the main point of a lot of people that stopped. The Stephanie and Hunter 15, 20, 30-minute openings, that really turned a lot of people off in the past 10 to 20 years.
Yeah. Why can't they see the pattern? Or maybe that, 20, 30-minute openings where nothing happens is actually really exhausting for the fans who just want entertainment. Do you think it was when Raw went to 3 hours?
Yeah, I
And they just
think.
went in this padding mode?
I think they are buying time. They are squeezing. They are stretching it out. When they went to 3 hours, and you knew at 10:30 or 10:35 that you were going to get a good 8 to 15 minutes of entrances, depending upon what the match is, and then the match would actually be somewhere around what in my local time, like 10:44 to like 10:48. But it would be like what? Backstage pre-tape, entrance, cut to commercial break, come back, backstage pre-tape or vignette for something else, then the rest of the entrances, then maybe a break and then the match, or actually go right into the match. Am I off base with that?
No, no, you're
You're
not.
exhausted just
28,
hearing it.
I think it was like 22 minutes or something for this Raw, and that's quick. Like every other week, it's been 28 to 31 minutes before the first bell went. And we can go, that is on the list of stuff we've got, but let's do the intro very quickly. First off, I've got Listmania Wrestling, my new YouTube channel where we do a deep dive or a top 10 list every single week. At least one video. We're doing 2 videos at the moment per week. Stevie has the YouTube fitness channel, of course, which is on the uptick once again. He's very proud of it. He's doing more stuff. Oh, you do more over 50s advice as well, because I quite liked when you're doing the walk and talk reactions.
I'm going to go back to that. Actually, there's a video coming up because I need an excuse to use the drone where I talk about the benefits of walking, different elements. Vertical diet has like the 10-minute walk after you eat and stuff like that. The walk and talks were good because I was so injured with my back, I couldn't work out or do much of anything. So I had to do whatever I could, but I'm looking to improve the product. I'm also going back basically to kind of like 101 type things for people that want to start in January, like what is contrast therapy, top exercises for resistance bands. I want to really try to go back to what my wife had said. What's wrong with being the beginner guy? What's wrong with being the resistance band guy? And that is a very great point to be able to do that. So, and also commenting. There's a lawsuit. You want to talk about crazy lawsuits? By the way, watch List Mania for some of the silliest lawsuits. They are suing a reviewer. This is a very dangerous lawsuit. They're suing a garage gym reviewer called Gluck's Gym, this company, Vulcan Strength, because he, after 3 months of going back and forth and trying to make it work, he gave it an overall negative review, and they're suing him for defamation. This is a
Hmm.
very, very important lawsuit, and why I'm kind of like hedging my bets in a way, trying to do different content, reactions, educational, because reviews in general, not just like fitness reviews, they might change forever if this lawsuit gets won by the company.
I think they've got that in technology reviews as well, you know, like where people who send cameras for an honest review and then they get an honest review and then you turn around and sue them.
Well,
I don't
the
think it's
emails I get are
exclusive
a
to
lot like
fitness.
what I get from promoters when I wrestled. They're no different. It's fitness is just like the wrestling business, which
Hmm.
makes it easier to navigate for me and almost like PTSD at the same time, reminding me all the carny nature of that. But speaking of carny stuff, it still exists in 2025, but there are some things with modern wrestling that we can say is good and some of the things that actually need to be eliminated. Maybe go back to the old school. Since you were a fan before you were born, James, weren't you?
Yes, I guess so. I remember back in the 30s. Oh, no, I was going to say rationing, but that didn't come until the 40s. Right, we have to get through the rest of the intros, and then we're going to get to Survivor Series very briefly, because that will actually tie into the Patreon. But before the Patreon, we've got to go to the Cameo. The reason that Stevie Richards is one of the most popular celebrities on Cameo is because he gives you more than your money's worth every single time. 5-star reviews across the board. Christmas is coming up. Give your loved one a overly cheap and overly detailed and thoroughly personal cameo from Stevie Richards for Christmas, I suggest. And also the Stevie Richards Patreon as well, where we just watched, which is going to be out on Monday, John Cena and Dominic Mysterio from Survivor Series Board Games this past weekend. And I think this is, you saw the highlights from it, but you actually watched the full match for the first time. And I think your reaction was, this is the most overbooked match I've seen all week.
Yeah, I was going to call it overbooked games, not board games, but I like your suggestion with that. On a positive note for Patreon, we just got a 24-hour request while you were doing the pitch. Do the pitch
Cool.
throughout the show. It's a good luck. I actually got a cameo from a gentleman. Him and his wife had met me 15 to 20 years ago in Philadelphia at a local supermarket. And she came up to me, he came up to me. They were very nice. And they said I was very nice to them. And they remembered it because they've also had some not so, I guess, positive experiences wrestlers. Just my assumption from the way they really said. But 15, 20 years later, and as a matter of fact, I asked them in the cameo if they could email me because they got a picture. I said, if you happen to have that picture, bring it or email it, and I will show it on a future episode. Take a drink of the show. But it's awesome to actually, in a way, reconnect with people I met almost 2 decades ago. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, I was going to say let's do more intros, but I think we're done now. So we need to talk about Survivor Series. Now there are a couple of things. I did my own review of it. I thought for the most part it was treading water, and I mean, what do you want? But there were a couple of things that you wanted to talk about. There was the Cena match, because you watched it all the way through, and you went, "Damn, I've got a lot more that I've got to address on the main show about that," and also Io Sky as well, among maybe a couple of other things. But give us your thoughts. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's talk about Dominic and Cena since we just started watching that. What were your thoughts about the match, watching it again in full after your review?
Well, because I review things like a human being. I don't sit there watching it like an automaton, writing down everything like Dave Meltzer, who actually just listens and then just types things that he thinks probably happened. But you know, when you're just focusing, trying to type out every single move. No, I mean, sometimes I'm watching, sometimes I'm talking, sometimes I come in and out of the room and stuff, and I just give you my impressions as somebody who isn't, you know, sat glued to the screen, which most people aren't. Watching that back, I hadn't quite realised how overbooked it was.
Well, it's not even
It
overbooked.
really was.
It's the actual theory of the spots with this is where we are running into a very bipolar suspension of disbelief with WWE. Is that a decent way of putting it? Because let's go all the way back, which isn't that long ago. Seth Rollins, Seth Rollins, who we thought had a legitimate injury at Saturday Night's Main Event, we actually did a what went wrong. And that kind of like muddies the water, even a what went wrong, as somebody who has over 3 decades of experience seeing things that should be real injuries or fake injuries or whatever they are. So he blows his knee out. I'm using air quotes. Then he comes back, throws the crutches off, and ends up cashing in on Punk, correct? And ends up winning the World Heavyweight title. So, fast forward, now Seth Rollins has a legitimate injury. Am I supposed to believe he's legitimately injured, especially since the Black Scorpion came in during Boar Games and did the Seth Rollins moveset, which I kind of like the tap, and we're going to have a theory on that later, who they're hoping it will be. But you fast forward, Penta just last week has we have to assume a legitimate injury. How do we know, right? Legitimate injury off the Hurricanrana spot from the guardrail to the floor, injured his shoulder, bicep, or both, somewhere in the left arm region or shoulder region. Then Dominic Mysterio takes an even worse bump than Penta, but we're supposed to believe that he faked the injury for the worst bump that Penta took, that he might be out for months, and literally glossed over that, where I said that should have been the finish, even though the Hurricanrana spot was just like, dude, you look like you hit the back of your head and knocked yourself out, which he might have done. See? But how am I supposed to care one way or the other? Then you roll Cena back in the ring off that. You hit him with the 619, the frog splash. That should have been the finish. And I have to say this on what went right. They used Raquel Rodriguez to perfection in this match. That is the Diesel blueprint right there. So, but that was a false finish. So now not only did Dominic fake the injury, then you got the referee. I'm all over the place because this finish and these spots are all over the place. Then you got the referee, for some reason, God knows what, decides I'm not going to count because Cena's down. I didn't see what happened. Only to have Liv Morgan come back. She's back. She hit her music. She's back. Now you have Liv coming in and swerving, fake slapping Dominic, then low blowing Cena for the same finish, 619, frog splash. Ref comes in off of getting knocked down off the shoulder blocks, but he counts that. Even though he sees Cena down and Dominic covering him. Am I missing something with the bipolar nature of this overbooked finish?
Yeah, because I kind of liked it when the referee refused to count, because I saw it that he knew that Raquel and Roxanne had interfered, and then he immediately throws them out.
But let me counter
that. But then surely he must have known.
He knows Liv rolled them back in the ring. What is she doing out there?
What is she doing in the Impact Zone?
Back.
Miv Logan. Do you remember when they used to do that in TNA all the time?
Yeah.
What's so-and-so doing in the Impact Zone? Did you so happen to know their new name?
Yeah, the only time it didn't work out was when they said, what's Robbie McAllister doing in the Impact Zone?
No, they used his real name.
They did, yeah, when he was sitting... Poor guy, really man, glum, that was brutal. They did. That's not a nice thing to do. But you might think I'm splitting hairs, but that is a disconnect. It might be a subconscious disconnect, but these all add up. In other words, you're expecting me to forget about all the real injury of Penta. And now this is fake. So when Penta comes back, he might have been faking. He came back in record time, so he was faking. So it all ends up with a very George Carlin type of look at this stuff and say, I'll just sit back and enjoy the show.
You know, some people would argue the converse of that is that they're working you. You're being worked because you don't know what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, but you don't know what's real and what's fake, but then you end up not caring because there's no basis on any kind of reality of what should be fake and what should be real.
Let's get to Io Sky then, because I think this was the one that really bugged you, and I hadn't quite realised just how many times she's done this. This is 3 times in a row. War Games in a row she's done this.
Not to mention NXT as well, right?
I don't know if it was NXT. I know it's 2020. There must have been a War Games because it was in the COVID times with the what did they used to call it? The Thunderdome of the all the screens. Oh, you're talking about
the when Riddle and Seth had that cage match that brought over from NXT where it had the platform.
No, they called the arena something like.
Oh, the Thunderdome. Yeah, the Thunderdome. Because
it was actually called the Thunderdome with all the screens.
Just watched Mad Max from back like 30 years ago, so he called it the Thunderdome. Yeah.
So yeah, she's done it 4 times now, and I was saying to you on the Patreon pre-show thing, is that I do so much content that I never really remember what I've done the week before, and WWE, I feel, are the same way. They do so much content that I can't remember what I've seen the week before or the year before. And I'd completely forgotten that she'd done it 3 other times. No, I forgot she'd done it the year before and the year before that.
God, I wish I had your form of CTE. I really do, because I remembered it all. That's it's just with the trash can in general. The trash can is dangerous, and I can see they tried to smooth out the top, because when she's coming down, that lid has little sharp lips on it and stuff like that, and she does a flip blind and lands on it, and they're supposed to catch her like when she's not even flat. In this most recent one, we're going to do what went wrong later in the show with a smartboard segment. When we're looking at that, she can land any way. That's fine. But the trash can, and also you're landing. I remember the Young Bucks dived or did a flip dive to Cody Hall, Scott Hall's kid over in Japan, and came right down on his head and broke his neck. That's sort of the same exact bump she's doing, coming down, landing on shoulders, top of the head. But also that trash can is a whole other element of where she needs to be. But let's ignore the fact that everybody is just looking up at her for a good 10 seconds, waiting for her to jump on them. The old Disco Inferno, just walk away. Why would I stand there and wait for it? But you introduced that knee. I mean, they're all very, very lucky and blessed that she's done it this many times and nobody's gotten gashed open. Nobody's gotten like really, really hurt off this, including her. I don't care what you say and how you're looking. The minute that trash can goes over your head at that height, you're blind, and you don't know when you're hitting. You don't know when you're touching a person. So think about that.
Man, that give me such vertigo. Don't you think?
Yep.
Don't you think that would disorientate you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's got some real balance
It's
going on. I
sensory
mean, I'm
deprivation.
taking the positive here.
It's like
It's
instant
amazing.
sensory deprivation that you're looking, even though it's a few seconds, even when you see what you're doing on top of the cage, feels like an eternity. 10, 15 feet up feels like 10,000 feet up, and doing that, sure. I mean, they presented it in a creative way where AJ Lee couldn't give her the trash can, but then, she was on the other girl's shoulder and handed it to her. Those spots are entertaining, but it ends up meaning nothing. In other words, what if she hurt a couple of the girls? And then we're going to say, okay, well, is it real? Is it fake? Am I supposed to pay attention? That takes you away from the suspension of disbelief. But all in all, and you can say ECW or whatever, you're right. I did one trash can spot in WWE. It was with Booker T, hardcore title match in England. And he put it over me, and I was like, that's the way the spot usually goes. And that there is dangerous enough, because I don't know where or when Booker's going to kick me, by the way, with all his might, because I don't know when to take the bump. So he literally, it was, I was seeing stars around this, and he never kicked me in the face. It was just a reverberation of that and hitting the back of my head on the trash can. So this girl's doing a flip, and as she comes down, like, who's to say there's not going to be a piece of metal that'll gash her, gash somebody else, or the bump she takes is on the hard part of the bottom of the trash. I'm giving everything that could go wrong, because she's going to do it every year until she can't do it anymore.
Do you know, just because you reminded me of breaking Cody Hall's neck, do you know that happened in the WWF once, 98? Do you
Edge's
know
debut
who got
match.
Edge's debut match with Miguel Perez Jr. And I tell you what, it was like a pre-recorded Raw. He's down, straight to commercial, back in. 5 seconds of Miguel Perez. Oh, his career's over. Well, we can't grieve forever. Next segment. It was so quick they swept him under the rug and you never saw him again.
Yeah, and that was just a regular flip dive that you see Sami Zayn do, you see Ray Phoenix do, you see Payne, you see everybody do these. But when you land and you pogo stick them, or you compress that head into the higher vertebrae, you're going to break somebody's neck. And when I saw Edge do it, it was pretty light. It was not like just, I don't know, even Ray does it, but Ray lands on your chest. But then again, when you take the bump, back of your head can hit the floor or the ramp.
Is there anything else you want to bring up about Survivor Series? Anything good? Because I mean, my other point was that how can you Same with Money in the Bank, same with Elimination Chamber. There's sort of a quality thing where you have to have a women's and you have to have a men's on every show. And it doesn't matter if it's a men's or a women's, but I just think you have to have one. The two Royal Rumbles thing, I guess you have to have because it's traditional to... That's something else I'd scrub. I'd scrub the number one contender from the Royal Rumble. I liked it when it had no meaning. You know, the first few years, I liked it when like it could be literally anyone who wins it. But like because you have to be the number one contender. Apart from the last few years, where now there are two world championships, so if a Jey Uso wins, then you can give him the secondary world title shot at the opening of night one instead of the last night of night two. So now it opens it up a bit. But I always liked it when it had absolutely no meaning whatsoever if you won it or not.
Well,
Which sounds really weird.
How can I? Yeah. I don't know what you're. I'll ask you after I say this, and you can think about this question. What would you do for these where you have a male and a female roster, and you're trying to do male and female championships? I like the one where Flair won the title, where the title is basically on the line, and the champion has to survive Royal Rumble. Now we have an alternative story. If the champ never got beat, but he got eliminated under, or she got eliminated under weird circumstances, and they have to fight their way back to get back in the title picture. I like the title being on the line. But
it was vacated that year. It was vacated that year. Ric Flair wasn't the champion.
No, he wasn't, but he won the title. But I'm saying there was a title. There was a title win in the Rumble. I like that. I know you need a world title match, but if you're going to have two Royal Rumbles and you make them both for the championship, now you got to figure out which championship. That's where we have two different women's titles, the world and the WWE. Then I think they should unify those. I don't like the consolation belt. I don't like one being called the company name and then the world. Which is bigger? Well, obviously WWE. No. To somebody like you said, if I'm just walking in and you see the world heavyweight champion and you see the WWE champion, which do you think as a casual fan is going to be the most important title?
The one with the company name in, I think, for me.
See, I would think world heavyweight title.
Yeah,
in general, just somebody not knowing anything about it. Maybe you watch boxing and other sports. Everybody in football and baseball and everything, they are world champions. Not just MLB champions, not NFL champions. That's what I'm talking about.
So I think the point I was getting with the Rumble thing that I derailed there is that, and I keep saying this, you've got stipulations that need matches and not the other way around. Like, there was no reason for this other than the event was coming up for either of these matches to be war games. They just have to, like, most really obviously manufacture a reason quickly within, like, 3 weeks.
Why not just Survivor Series?
To get teams together.
Just Survivor Series.
I love Survivor Series. It doesn't need a war games thing. And then you can have an entire, like they used to, an entire card, or half a card at least, of Survivor Series matches. Because they have just as little consequence as a war games match. But here's something else for you. War games matches in general. You know how weapons in WWE are really kind of homogenized now. You've got the homogenized tables with the sponsorship. You've got the kendo sticks every single week. You've got the usual. Then conversely, in AEW, you've got forks in the head and barbed wire baseball bats and something, you know, everything like that, where that's overdone as well. But it's far more gory and visceral. Is there some kind of middle ground where people can be kind of safe with it, but it look more real? Because it kind of, like, all the weapons in WWE look like they were just taken out of, you know, like, hermetically sealed, hygienically cleansed,
they were mint,
you know, like
box
wrapping.
Action figure type things, right?
Yeah, exactly. They look like the thing that came with the action figure in WWE, and they seem to have no consequence weapons.
Oh, here's what I would say. The cage is the weapon. Why can't the steel cage be the weapon? Isn't that what it always was? It keeps people out, keeps people in, but it's also used as a weapon. War Games in itself was something special because, just like Survivor Series, what you need to do from SummerSlam and Survivor Series, or even from WrestleMania to Survivor Series, is keep as many groups of people away from each other and have everybody have their own individual quest. That way, when they all come together for Survivor Series, it's like, wow, everybody in this match has an angle with somebody across the ring, but I've never seen Duggan next to Hogan in a tag match. I've never seen these kinds of people here. That's and also angles came out of Survivor Series. I think one of the most famous ones was Brett and Owen from Survivor Series, correct?
Indeed.
Yeah. And then they carried that on to another show, Stampede, the Calgary Stampede show, I think, where Owen kicked him in the leg.
No, that was 4 years later. You're thinking Royal Rumble 94.
I'm thinking, what I'm thinking of is there was a time where
I kick your leg out of your leg, and he does the messed up promo.
They were fighting, then they got along, they tagged up, and then he turned on him after the loss.
Survivor Series is where the initial shoving thing happens. Royal Rumble, they start tagging afterwards. Royal Rumble 94 is where they're against the Quebecers, and Brett is in the ring an inordinately long time because they cut the ring off from Owen. And then Owen gets frustrated, kicks him in the leg because they don't win the titles. And then at WrestleMania 10, they have the match. But the Calgary Stampede is 97, and they were on the same team.
And that was Hart Foundation, where Austin, Austin was booed for that. That was weird, but that was interesting. You know, that was a storyline within itself. When you're in U.S., you're a heel. In Canada, you're a babyface. But we remember that, and I might have got some of the pay-per-view but the chronological storyline of that came through. But getting back to the other thing, that's why, because every week, what do we have? We essentially have Survivor Series matches almost every week. We essentially have the tag, 6-man, all these makeshift tag team type of matches because they make the match in the first segment, it's the main event, and there we are.
Is the roster a lot smaller than I think? Because, we'll bring this up later, but there seems to be so little turnover in the actual stars. Or is it just because there are no mismatches anymore? You know what I mean? There's no squash matches anymore. So you just always have to have the same 20 people always wrestle each other every single week. But it just seems like the WWE roster isn't that big at the moment.
Well, that's the problem, too. That you have a cannibalization of the roster through matches and storylines and 50-50 booking. Like, nobody's special at the end in any way because everybody has to kind of take turns to figure out who's getting pushed. I go back, the last time it was done right was Ryback. When you fed him locals, then you had one local, two locals, sometimes three locals. That guy got himself over, and they got him over with local matches, your favorite murder hour, right? So I don't know what you do, but that's the only way you establish anticipation of, I want to see this match. I want to see when this person, he's running through all these people, what happens when he finally crosses paths with this person? Or that guy that's going through the locals starts calling out so-and-so superstar in the box. Remember the boxes as he's wrestling?
Mm-hmm.
Then the other person finally responds. Then somewhere weeks or months down the line, we get a face-off. Then we might get them in a Survivor Series match where they kind of touch. Then at the Rumble, they might do some where one eliminates the other. Then they have a WrestleMania match. Is that kind of the way it went? That's 6 months or more.
I've got the problem with the Ryback thing, and then the same with Rodney Mack or Chris Masters or Braun Strowman. When they would bring in enhancement guys, they'd only do it for them, and it wasn't. And it always struck me as, once again, really manufactured to, I don't know, keep them out of the ring as long as possible. When, if there was 2 or 3 squash or enhancement matches every show, it wouldn't stand out like that. Because whenever, let's say, most recently Braun Strowman, when they were doing that with him, it's like, why is he getting the easy matches and nobody else is?
It's almost like you have to have something in the format that this is going to be the showcase match, or this is going to be this person's tryout match against this person. You have something attached with not a storyline, but a format category of, this is I know what I'm getting here. Like even the first hour of Raw could be featuring these guys. And as the show goes on, the matches get more competitive until the main event, like any indie show, right? We have somewhat of the underneath guys or less known guys going into the main event at the end of the show.
Yeah, I'd always have it in the last segment of the first hour, and then the second hour kicks off with whatever big thing you've got going. But if you're looking at it as a purely logical thing, is that I would look at, let's say a card has got 8 matches, and one of them is Braun Strowman versus 2 undersized locals. My thing as a fan watching it would be, Why is he getting an easy ride and nobody else is? I wouldn't think, wow, he looks so strong. I'd be like, he's getting preferential treatment, this guy.
It's the
Why?
fix is in.
Yeah.
It's a great point. I mean, that is a great point. It needs to have something to it, but I also think the formula of having new wrestlers or independent wrestlers or inexperienced wrestlers, you did a whole video about people that were WWF jobbers before they became stars.
Mhm.
There's a path for that. It's almost like you're introduced, you start to get to know the talent a little bit, you kind of dip in and out and seeing their progress, and then finally sign them to the NXT deal or bring them to the main roster. That was a real formula back then. It was very political, but at the same time, they had to cut their teeth on the indies. They had to learn the craft. And then when they got experience, then WWE, sometimes they'll give them a tryout. It wouldn't work out. And you have to do it a few years later. We're missing that.
Going back to Survivor Series, I don't know if there's anything else you want to bring up on it, but the mystery man at the end,
Black
what do you
Scorpion.
think of that? The Black Scorpion, excuse me. Was it Ole Anderson?
It's not Al Perez this time. I can guarantee it.
Oh, Sprite.
There's your list mania.
He was doing Seth Rollins moves, and there's a rumor. There's not a rumor. It's just because Al Perez and Seth Rollins look weirdly similar.
Oh, that's not a bad. That's not a bad.
Yeah, so maybe it could be Al Perez, his real father.
True. I was going to say that that's a list mania. Who were the Black Scorpions?
Ooh, I want to do one with all the doinks.
That's a good one too.
I've already got one because I wrote it in my book. All the people who were the Blue Blazer.
There you go. So, who was the Black Scorpion at Survivor Series? Who do you think it was?
I don't want it to be Austin Theory because I think that'd be a complete waste.
It might have been him then, though. That's what I mean. Not in the final. Yeah. The final version.
Who it's going to be revealed as to be? If it's Chris Jericho, why would you introduce him as a heel? That's where the logic break is, and then why you said this beforehand. Why would you bring him in as a group, as part of a group straight away?
Well, because you already had guys in a group they're already could get over on their own. They're in a group right now, so why not add another guy? Yeah, my theory, just for everybody out there, is, of course, the Austin Theory is kind of the backup or maybe the safe choice for them to not, wait for somebody or try to figure out who the big shock is. And Austin Theory, I think, is a great talent. And I think by taking him off as soon as Vince was off TV, they had him with Grayson Waller. They had a pretty cool entrance and a pretty cool dynamic, but they didn't really go into it too much. They were kind of Fandango and Tyler Breeze Part 2 in a way. That's the way they kind of presented them. But my theory is, because this is another contention I have about Survivor Series and the Raw right after that. You didn't even follow up to ask who was this guy in the hood and the black outfit, and none of the baby faces were even at Raw to try to find out who it was, to do investigative work or try to track down who it might be. All they had was Adam Pearce telling the referee, hey, go be a stooge in the locker room for me. That's all that happened. So, with that being said, they, I think, are buying time and not addressing it, hoping or maybe thinking it's going to be Jericho after his contract expires, which is an absolutely terrible idea. But who runs WWE right now, and who does Chris Jericho have problems with?
Should we mention Jey Uso as well? Because I did a video on my channel that's out just about the time we're recording this, so on a Wednesday, and I just said, man, that was the tipping point for me. Man, I'm sick of Jey Uso. I hate that entrance. I hate the eating. And War Games is meant to be serious. You know for a fact that Brock Lesnar is about to come in and kill you all. Why are you having a dance beforehand? Shouldn't you be incapacitating the heels further so it's 4-on-1 with Brock, who then dominated 4-on-1?
Yeah, I would say now this is something else with modern wrestling. And when we get into that segment, I'll go deeper into it. You need to look at the situation. On the watch along with Brett and Roddy from WrestleMania 8, you had asked a question. I repeat this from last week. Excellent question, but it tells the story, literally, pun intended. You asked me, did they just record that promo live just before the match? That's all you need to know. Doesn't matter if it was 5 minutes before, 5 hours before. The continuity of the emotion, especially from Piper, He was happy, happy, happy. Brett and him got serious real fast. And then Piper comes out there like, playtime's over, kidding's over. I'm going to kick your butt. There's something to be said with that. If they just got that down with continuity's sake off of promos, entrances, inciting incidences the week before and addressing them the week after or the day after or whatever it is, I think it would improve modern wrestling by a large margin right away. But get back to Jey Uso. This is where you're the prosecutor and I'm the defense.
Okay. I was nonplussed with Jey Uso as I hate main event Jey Uso as a nickname as well. But I hate pretty much every nickname. I mentioned in my video, the Genius of the Sky is maybe the most egregiously awful nickname. Once again, designed by committee. Hey, we've got something we're going to trademark and put on t-shirts.
Hey, you can fly and the sky is the sky. So
you have a high IQ.
What are you, a smart ass?
You're a smart ass.
What are you, a smart ass? You're Genius of the Sky?
Yeah, man, that one gets me every single time. I hate it. I hate all these contrived nicknames.
Because the nickname means nothing, and they don't stick to why the nickname is part of the character. Main event Jey Uso is really booking yourself into a corner. I would refuse, because if you're not in the main event, you look like an idiot. I agree with that. Macho Man Randy Savage. Even Duke the Dumpster Droese, you understand that it's a trash man. You know, Bob Holly had some nickname with the race car stuff, but even the character, and these are dark times. Like the people that like wrestling is my second job, like they worked at TNA or something. I have a full-time job outside wrestling. But what I'm saying is, like, Seth Rollins is probably the biggest, like, he's the Paul Orndorff of switching names. Like Paul Orndorff switched babyface and heel. Like, what are you? And it almost becomes a joke when he reads off literally all the gimmicks he's had. You ever see him do that where he reads, I'm this, I'm that, I'm everything. Mm-hmm. You're literally just talking about how you haven't committed to a character. So yeah, the main event, Jey Uso, like Jey should have never even accepted that one. That was very, very touchy because now either he turns heel or he loses his spot and goes down, or he could still go down a few rungs anyway.
So if you're going to be the defense for Jey Uso, I'll be the prosecutor. Here are my issues with Jey Uso over the past year. I don't think he's that great of a wrestler. I think he's got a good look, but also there's nothing fantastic about him. Like he's not like a Ultimate Warrior type of thing. Well, we've got to push him to the main event because he looks that way. I'm nonplussed by his interviews, but here's the real... I hate his spear, and I hate that super kick. And they're two of his 4 moves, and he does them terribly. And here's the real thing that I can't stand, is that stupid entrance, and then you've got to replay it, and then do it again. And I know we both talk about it a lot on and off air as well. Dutch and I do. I mention it on my channel as well. Anything that takes way too much time to artificially drag out a segment, a match, a promo, anything, I hate. And that is public enemy number 1, that one. It absolutely is. It's great for the house, but when you watch it 50 times in a row, it's redundant after a couple of months. They peaked at WrestleMania to do it, and now they just do it even more. Do you remember when Hulk Hogan came back in 2002? He got an 8-minute standing ovation. It was amazing. Tell me how amazing that would be if it happened 50 weeks in a row. You get a bit sick of it.
I would tend to agree in context with what you said. Now, when Jey won the World Heavyweight title, that's when the entrance should have been done. Going through the crowd, celebration to open up the show. That's it. I still put it on creative. What does WWE and wrestling in general these days do? Hey, that works. Let's beat them over the head with it week after week. Jey Uso's not saying, hey, Triple H is saying, hey, Jey, just get right to the ring. No way, dude. I'm doing 8 minutes. I'm doing 8 minutes. And then they're like, okay, you do the 8 minutes. Your main event, Jey Uso. No. This is on TKO in the office. This is exactly what I talked about before. If we had a 60 to 90-minute Raw, you would eliminate all that right away. Or maybe you wouldn't, and you would just, Jey Uso's in the ring. We got 20 minutes left in the show. No, this is creative. This is management. And as fans, it's not Jey Uso an indictment on him. It's an indictment on everything. Seth Rollins, I'm a heel, but sing my song. disconnect. Other people, dude, I said it on the Patreon or off when we were doing the pre-show. I said the answer is today, make Taker look like he's running to the ring like the Ultimate Warrior. I never thought there would be a longer entrance than the Undertaker, but we got it. We got it. Roman Reigns started that. That dude took his time getting to the ring too. So this here is a time-killing thing. And if I were a fan, I wouldn't stand for it. I wouldn't buy a ticket to go to the show and see that. Like you said, 4 matches in almost 3 hours. And if I was the network or Netflix or anybody that pays for that billions of dollars for 4 to 5 years license, I'd be the first one on the phone complaining like, dude, we're paying like $3.9 million an episode. That's $28,000 or so a minute. Jey Uso just cost us $150,000. Come on. That's the people that need to be more mad than us or any fan, is the people paying for this time filler. I didn't necessarily defend Jey. You win that round, but it's not on Jey.
Okay, right, that is true. As far as a wrestler goes, I find a lot more characters on Raw specifically more interesting. I can rattle them off. Bron Breakker. And I see them as above Jey. Main event Jey Uso. Like your Gunther's, CM Punk's, your Seth Rollins, your Bron Breakkers, your LA Knight I'd see above Jey Uso. And there's a guy who I think's still criminally underrated and who deserves, more than what he's getting. Drew McIntyre, you'd argue Logan Paul, I'm sure, that would be better than Jey Uso. There's like another 5. AJ Styles is still there. John Cena's hanging about. Dominic Mysterio. I just think there's infinitely better options out there to be in a main singles run than Jey. And I'll give you one more thing, and I'm sure you'll argue with me on this one, is I think his spear is horrible, and that's his finish. I think the super kicks are horrible. That's his finish. Like and I don't hate it, but it's the IWC term, his moveset. But like you have your 5 moves of doom kind of thing, and none of them look impactful. It's a complete disconnect with me for Jey. But I know for a fact that you really like Jey as a performer. So what do you see that I'm not seeing?
Yeah, I'm still going to be completely objective. There has been a regression. There has been a certain amount. I don't know if it's contentment. I know Jey's, he has to want to hold on to that spot. He's not lazy and content from the Jey I know and watched, but also he had the opportunity to get to the spot and then to hold on to the spot. And I feel like there was a kind of staleness that was brought on after he won the World Heavyweight title. Now, I do contend with you. I'm watching Jey Uso and a lot of other people. Those are big man moves. The spear is a big man move. The spear is so overused by a lot of people. Once Roman Reigns started doing it, they should have cut out a lot of it. You had Goldberg come back. The only other person I would say that should use the spear is obviously Bron Breakker. But we have the spear that's the new super kick. Let's get to the super kick. Yeah, that there, I would say Jey had an opportunity to basically bring the super kick back as a setup for the frog splash, for the Uso splash finish, to knock somebody out in order to do that. There can be tweaking. I was a big fan of Jey back in the COVID era. You know why? When he started cutting promos and he was doing that stuff with Roman, I said it on Russo's show way back. This dude's a star. I didn't say a main event star, a permanent main eventer, but he is a star that had as a niche with that. He went up to that. Now they gave him the belt. He should have been able to carry that. There's been incidences here and there with press conferences that you've covered in the past where it looks like sometimes the pressure would get the Jey to be in that spot. As a matter of fact, they put it on the show. Remember? He was doubting himself before. Yeah. No, he was doubting himself on TV going into the Gunther match. Mm-hmm. But the problem was that Jey could have had those doubts. Once again, the writers and whatever. He says it in the Jey Uso language or the way he would say it, but the words I feel were somebody else telling him to say it. Because I'm watching the promos before where he's with Roman and they kind of let them do whatever they did. Him and Sammy, the stuff with Sammy and breaking everybody up and stuff like that, that was Jey's best work. So based off all that stuff, he passed every test going to the world title. You know what I mean? There's no like, well, Roman had it, so let's give it to Jey, or Jey just kind of is here, or he's been here 15 years, so give it, the old speech, childhood dream. I've been in this company for 15 years and deserve it. Disconnect. Jey proved every time they tested him that he could carry the ball. Unfortunately, with the world title, there were some stalls, there was staleness, and of course, that entrance each and every week made people like you so tired of him. Then I'll tell you what happens from personal experience. You have the spot, you feel the pressure. By the way, in anything in life, right? When you're forcing it and you're pressured and you're like, I can't mess up. I can't mess up. I got to hit the super kick. I got to hit the spear. What ends up happening? Murphy's Law. You mess it up. So I saw a certain kind of tenseness with Jey, especially after losing a title, where it started to feel forced. It started to feel like he was trying too hard. The things that made Jey Uso over to me and a lot of other people in the beginning were lost. And now it feels like he's almost feeling like he's got to shove whatever he's doing down people's throats to get back over. And that's where he is now. Now there's a heel turn. And I have to say, I don't know, man. Like you just said, are we going to get to a point where, all right, I'm checked out of Jey? I don't hate him. It's just like enough. But I still believe in him as a talent, as somebody who considers himself to see the talent in people and see the potential. And also somebody as a talent. And we'll talk about Paul Heyman. When I was at my lowest point, I doubted myself. Paul Heyman and the ECW believed in me and coached me and produced me to become a main eventer in ECW. He needs somebody like that in WWE.
What would you suggest then? Because actually my next question was heel turn on Raw and or teasing anyway, and he tips over the thing, and I was kind of laughing through it because he was really trying to like lift up the Prime trolley, and he didn't really move it that far.
He lost the battle with the Prime trolley.
Yeah, and then he tried to do the same with the stairs. I say this on my other video. I saw a video like a few hours beforehand of Ahmed Johnson, right? Picked up the top end of the stairs and then launched them to where Goldust was like 1 second earlier. I was like, man, one, that could have gone wrong. Two, man, that looked impressive. Like, it was like, a hair's breadth between like Goldust getting out,
he might have been really aiming for him. Ahmed didn't care.
He was.
Yeah.
But the point was is that Ahmed Johnson was really impressive. He just ripped it up and lobbed these stairs. And Jey Uso's kind of like,
and the stairs are heavy. In Jey's defense, the stairs are heavy. Yeah, Ahmed threw a curveball instead of a fastball. Thank God, because he was aiming for Dustin. I have no doubt on that. Yeah. But I know my defense seems like it's very over the top or very kind of nuanced with everything. But you have to understand that a lot of these things in wrestling, it's just like Punk could be in the same exact spot of people getting tired of Punk, but they take a little bit better care now. And this is the creative system in wrestling. All right, brother, you're over. You're on your own. That's it. Now we're going to get this guy over. Then everybody gets over, but we talked about it before. 50-50 booking in the end kind of brings everybody down. And Jay's in that spot right now.
Yeah, well, because I think also I would have said, well, if you turn him heel, then kind of so what? What's changed? I mean, do you just get rid of the only thing, the entrance, which would bug me, but other people still enjoy? So if he's a bad guy now, then he probably wouldn't do the yeeting or the entrance or anything like that. So what's left? So turning heel would probably make it worse for him, in my mind. So what do you do with him?
The only thing you could have done with him is you had other things going on. So it could have been a Survivor Series, but you could have had him turn on Roman and lay Roman out. That's the only saving grace. If you want Jey to be an impactful heel, he turns on Roman, he turns on Jimmy. He turns on the whole family. The family comes into one episode and he kind of flips them off and says, I'm on my own. Now he has no family, he has no friends. That's what it's got to be. Jey has to be, I almost see that like if he's such a loner, he'll become a babyface again if you keep like taking care of that. But he has to be this whole thing about losing your temper and going crazy. You know what I mean? Destroying everything and going crazy. That has also been overplayed to a point. The suddenness of the turn, that's what the shocking part is, right? If he was a little bit like starting to get frustrated and then it seemed like he calmed down for a few weeks, right? So Then he calms down. You lulled everybody into, okay, he just lost his temper or whatever. Then he turns on Roman because he's just like, I had to hold it in, and I just feel like the jealous younger brother or cousin of Roman Reigns. I should be the tribal chief. I should do this. They all kiss your butt. I'm not the one. I remember back at COVID what you did to me, and I never forgot. Now we're back on track.
Well, you said on the promo after the fact, he said Roman Reigns said that he couldn't have the belt on him, or what was the exact wording? I can't remember.
I forget. That's
basically
the problem too.
Yeah, I can't remember. Right, okay then. Well, we're actually going to get into the issues with...
I'm a horrible defense attorney.
Let's get into the modern wrestling then. And I wanted to open with this. So what we did, both Steve and I, we went through a lot of the comments. We screenshotted a lot of them to sort of come up with a list of issues that the fans are having with modern pro wrestling, specifically WWE, but for the most part, it's across the board, I think it's fair to say. And I've got a comment that I want to open with. This is from Old School Eddie. We didn't tell anyone we were going to do this. We sort of just decided it last minute. And he says, never before in the history of professional wrestling has the actual professional wrestling meant so little. And I think that's... What do you think of that as a comment?
Well, there's a good mix that you need. You need sports entertainment. You need the moments. We talked about the Austin Corvette cement truck thing, and there needs to be a mix of ridiculous moments. But yeah, I mean, 4 matches in 3 hours, as we keep talking about that episode. Was it Raw? 3.
No, that was Survivor Series was 4 matches.
Sorry.
But Raw does that as well.
I'm sorry, they're not far off for
and here's the other thing. Raw's the same length as the pay-per-view or the PLE these days.
There you go.
Right, but that's coming way down this list in, I imagine,
but you're
part
right.
2.
What's so special? It's another 3-hour show, another 3-hour show. Oh, we have 16 stadium shows a year. What's special about the wrestling, right?
So we have to go on with point 1, and I'm going to read out some of these issues here that people have, and these are about wrestlers are trained to be choreographed. So here we go. I haven't got my glasses on. NJ Traff, or NJTRAF, or however you pronounce it. As a 39-year-old, I have to agree with Bret Hart to an extent. The guys I grew up watching throughout the 90s in terms of the in-ring did the basics, the fundamentals, a lot better than modern wrestlers. Modern wrestlers can do more complicated stuff in the ring, don't get me wrong, but the basics are shoddy and the timing is often terrible, not to mention selling being virtually non-existent. So take that first point.
Yeah, you need a foundation. You need a foundation in wrestling. This is where, like, your murder hour comes in. You show the basics of the moves, the 5 moves of doom. You establish the moves. You multiply that times how many from those Wrestling Challenge and Superstar shows that got everybody over to the point now. What happens when Bret wrestles perfect? What happens when Bret wrestles this guy? What happens? Will Piper get the sleeper on Hogan because he got it on 50 other people? Is Hogan going to drop the leg on Piper because he's wrestled Rusty Brooks 1,000 times on Challenge? Rusty Brooks, I grew up in South Florida. He was Hogan's favorite wrestling challenge thing. But you're right. The basics, this is indicative of everything in society today, right? Nobody gets the basics down. Everybody wants to be an expert right off the bat. Nobody can build a foundation for anything. In other words, I can't believe in 2025 that they do not have competition. I don't care what anybody says. AEW and WWE are 2 different products. They're not competing with each other. So why are you in a rush to hot shot angles? Why are you in a rush to hot shot finishes, title switches, storylines, when during the Monday Night Wars, they did the Crash TV, but at the same time, didn't they build up storylines over weeks, months, and sometimes years?
Yeah, but you can argue that the opposite, because WWE does so little in the way of advancing storylines, but they all build over 2 years. It's like, how long was Austin Theory and Grayson Waller arguing with each other before there was ever a payoff?
Well, because there's no progression. There's no progression. It's lateral movement. Now, I'd say this, the last time they really did it right, and they kind of accidentally did it right going into WrestleMania 40, was the 2-year Cody story. I like that. He lost the first year, had to come all the way back, and almost lost his spot with the old hug and whisper in the ear after the Rumble. But man, that was some. And one of the comments here talk about the last time it was interesting was when The Rock was the final boss going into WrestleMania 40, and I'd have to agree with that.
Another point. These all relate to the actual in-ring stuff, so I can't stand how choreographed it looks, wrestling looks. Strikes look fake. Pacing kills any emotion or connection. You see everyone planning their spots. Gosh, the fact people can't even walk properly in the ring, it's just an awful experience that goes beyond the problem of Spotfest. That's from Andre Legant.
That's the Hot Wheels
really
feet he talks about. You love the Hot Wheels feet.
Yeah, but I can't even describe how it goes, though, as far as it just seems like there's just a way that they go from one move to the next that seems like they're both absolute, they're making the eye contact, then they're almost giving the secret nod. Right, we're ready. Now we're going to go for it. Never feels organic, or rarely does.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spot. You want to talk about the definition of a wrestling high spot or a wrestling spot. That's what it is. I'm going to read this because we have both ends of the spectrum. We have Stay Hydrated. I have it right here. Stay Hydrated says, I respect your takes. I love that you blame the company and not the wrestlers. But wrestling is subjective, but definitely what should always stay the same is the respect for the basics. Here we go again. Basics and, of course, for the sport. But this will always be a topic. I bet in the 90s with ECW and the Attitude Era rising, they were both those who disliked what became of wrestling. That's Cornette and other people, admittedly, became a wrestling. But that era was the biggest boom of wrestling. It changes, but if you look, there's always remnants of the past who paved the way. Now, I will say this. We're running into a point where the past is going away. John Cena's last match, we're going to do a Saturday night's main event review. How many people are left after Cena? We have The Rock's not coming back as far as I can see. Cena's going away.
Goldberg's
gone. Taker doesn't wrestle anymore. Shawn, Hunter, which I'm still convinced that Hunter's going to wrestle in Saudi Arabia in WrestleMania 43.
I think Steve Austin might. That's my guess.
But are we talking about these are sold shows? Are we talking about storylines, full-time talent? Okay. What about after WrestleMania 43? You're going to sell it to Saudi. That's my guess still. What do you have after that? Except one of the comments said, and I don't know if I screenshotted it, you might as well just make AI wrestling. Then they can dive off anything or, these user-generated wrestlers. That's where it's going. Oh, by the way, people want to see a regular segment of how we can rewrite a certain storyline or angle using ChatGPT.
Yeah, I don't want to beat that horse before.
Why not? WWE does.
Well, they will do. They brought in a consultant. Mr. Beaver says, I agree with Bret Hart. I can't watch modern wrestlers because it looks like a choreographed dance routine. And that's something we've heard for many years now. But is it getting worse than it was in the 2000s, do you think? Because 2000s, especially, that's where indie wrestling, I guess, as a pejorative term came from. That it looked like they'd obviously worked it out. I'm going to give you this, actually, Stevie. I've just remembered this. They worked it out 6 hours beforehand. And at Survivor Series that day in, what's it called, Petco Park, and they actually had to put a giant curtain up over the ring so the wrestlers could rehearse their match, because there are certain hotels that can see into the stadium. So they ended up doing, trying to keep it all secretive.
Okay, but then they're going to do a documentary 6 months from now where they show everybody talking the match over.
Yeah.
So why bother?
Why bother?
Turkey likes that. Turkey likes the 6 month wait.
Do you think there should be some sort of moratorium or ban on practicing too much? Because it's really obvious as well. Do the women do it more than the men, do you think, these days? Or is it all across the board?
I don't know. I remember I used to make jokes all the time, and they would want to throw me out of the hallway because Chris Daniels and AJ Styles were literally reversing whips in the hallway back outside the locker room, hitting the concrete blocks as if it was a turnbuckle or a rope and bouncing off. And I was just like, man, that's a great match, guys. I don't have to watch it when you go out there now. They literally rehearsed the whole match. So, there's certain things you want to go over with a crash pad or certain bumps, and then have the agent obviously watch. This is another thing. I don't think they watch. If an agent watched some of these dangerous spots and they were worth any of their agent power or knowledge, they would cut it out. So I don't know, and there's always this jinx. You've done some, sparring or other things or other things in jiu-jitsu or kickboxing. I don't know. You're an athlete. I'm not. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I'm not an athlete, but yeah,
Okay.
I've done those
I was
things.
trying to be kind. And so
I'm a fathlete.
aha, there we go. The
Aha.
first aha. Now we're in. So there's such a thing of getting, I kid about the good takes got done in rehearsal. Now the bad version's coming now. When you rehearse too much, you get all the good takes out of you. It's superstition, but it lends true. Sometimes just doing it, reacting live, you need to count on, if you've taken 1,000 bumps, by the way, James and everybody, you should know how the bump's going to go. You don't need to rehearse exactly where it is and all this stuff. But yeah, it's done way too much. And guess what? That natural reaction is lost, the natural cell, and even the natural body movement and language of the bump. Because, like you said, well, obviously you've rehearsed it 10 times earlier. I can tell. That's the suspension of disbelief being lost. So let me go to this. JB says, Shazam. I didn't change into somebody as a superhero.
Before you do, I want to just ask you one thing. So I mentioned this to Dutch. Should there be some sort of idea that if you have to rehearse a spot because it's so intricate, maybe you shouldn't do it in the first place?
Exactly.
Because it requires that much to remember.
Yeah, if you're a wrestler, I said this before, and I was on the indies. If you're a wrestler and walked up to me, and in modern days, let's talk about it in the way we produce. If you had to literally wheel out a smartboard and start trying to tell me the steps that are involved with the move, or it takes more than even 3 things to explain the move, I can't do it. If I can't understand it 20 to 25 years in of what you're trying to do, and you're telling me you got to be here for this, then over here for this, then over here for this, then here for that. I'm like, well, what? I can't even, this, and it's got to, and if they say you got to be in this corner and it's an indie show with not 4 cameras, then you already, it's just too much. But you're right. If it's too much to explain for an actual worker to understand, how do you think it's going to translate to people out there? I agree with Dutch. All right, Shazam. Nothing happened. All right. When I first started watching WWF wrestling back in 1997, I remember when the show was over, it just ended. But, without Paul Levesque and Lee Fittings and the credits. No credits, no nothing. I didn't know what to think at the time. This was very unusual for anything on television at the time, basically a cliffhanger. Then I started watching your channel and it does the same thing. So I guess we just end the show. I don't know. I thought do we have cliffhangers?
No, we always have an outro. What we always do is we say that we're going to do something next week and then we do something completely different.
We do the
because this was meant to be
swerve.
the Roddy Piper. This was meant to be Roddy Piper Part 2.
True, but RCT kicked in. Hey, here's one more and we'll go to this because I think that we talked about the Authority turning people off literally from the show. Those 30-minute, just whatever they were, just basically giving compliments to each other. You're the Authority. Remember that? Apparently not.
Yeah.
All right. The Nature Boy, 1837. Ooh, I'll do my Bret Hart. Woo. I dipped out at WrestleMania 17 when Stone Cold turned heel and shook Vince's hand. Vince had just brought WCW, and without viable competition, I knew the product was going to stagnate and die. That was bad, dude. That was not a good decision.
That was a complete betrayal of the Stone Cold character. And to make it worse, it was Steve's fault because he was the one who thought it could pull it off. And he was great doing it, but it's like, it doesn't matter. The motivation doesn't make sense. If the motivation's contrived or doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter how great you perform it.
Yeah, I totally
They lost
agree.
a third. They lost a third of their viewership audience in like 9 months. It never came back.
What does Dutch say? Sometimes you just got to give them what they want. And nobody ever got tired of Stone Cold, the employee or independent contractor in this case, beating up the boss. Everybody could live like anybody that's ever had a job, continues to have a job, or will have a job, can identify with what Austin and McMahon were doing. It really was timeless if you think about it.
Here's another couple of ones for you regarding training and choreographed moves and whatnot. Stevie is right about the coaches in WWE. This is from Danny.
Dude,
so
we
I
got
also
the same
blame the
comment
coaches.
in front of us. Ooh,
oh, fantastic.
It's scary. Danny 06969.
Yeah, read it.
No, I want you because he talks about me. I don't want
to. Okay, then. So I also blame the coaches and what WWE wants people to be. You're not yourself turned up to 11 anymore. Every punch Brett launched looks so real. I love that Brett hung onto the ropes with his mouth wide open, preventing him to fall to the mat. It's little things like that. But let's go to the beginning line there. Stevie is right about the coaches. And the reason you're so right about the coaches is because you did a guest NXT coaching spot some years ago. And what did they want you to do, Stevie? Tell the wrestlers every single move they had to make the entire way through. How does, one, anybody learn from that? And two, how does anybody... It's like being a comedian. If your A material's not working, you've got to go with the B material or the C.
Yeah.
But what if you've only got A? And then you just go out there and flounder like that Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyrie match that went at SummerSlam that I still can't get over.
Well, this is the deal. And it's not the coaches. I met a lot of great coaches there, and they are not allowed to give their knowledge. How can Robbie Brookside, Norman Smiley, Scotty Tuhati was there, other people that all different gambits and different flavors of sports entertainment and old school wrestling. It's not the coaches. If you want to talk about people in power, you can talk about Matt Bloom, Salvador Del Rey, the management that doesn't really do anything to really make that system work. And because they're just cashing a check, because Vince back then, Triple H, whatever else, and now Shawn Michaels is there. And you think anybody's going to tell Shawn Michaels, hey, you're wrong about this person. So now you got the Emperor Has No Clothes on all different levels of everything. And everybody just wants to keep their job. You know, Russo brought a great point up too, that back in the day, if Austin or anybody was jumped by a masked man and it cost him the Survivor Series War Games match, Austin would be right out there with a folding chair, arms folded, waiting for that person to show up. But you know what? Everybody now with the guaranteed contracts and no incentive at all, from what I understand, here's your guarantee, here's what you're getting paid. Maybe there's certain incentives. It's a day off from work. Who cares? If they were worth their salt, every babyface in that match, who did he stomp? Did he stomp Punk? Especially Punk. It was Punk, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be screaming, I need to come to Raw the next Monday and look for this guy. Don't give me the day off. I look like I don't care. That's the coaching in NXT and the Performance Center as well. It's get your entrance down. Make sure it's on the right base beat. Get the pose. Go to the apron. Get in there. Shoot the arrow, Damian Priest. You know, like all this goofiness, that's all that matters. Hit the promo.
The Archer of Infamy.
Yeah.
I hate that one too. That's one of the worst nicknames.
But the Archer of Infamy.
Oh.
But here's the thing. I was right there for this as well. Now, just to give people a little bit of context, what James is talking about on a live event, a house show, not even a TV, I was supposed to have the headphones on with the microphone telling the referee, tell him to go to the corner, tell him to do this, tell him to do that, go here. All I did was, obviously, when you have inexperience, and one of those people was Otis, by the way. One of those, when they're that inexperienced, the only thing that I had to tell them to do was slow down, breathe, stay in the hold. Not quite yet. These little timing and gear things that nobody with no experience is going to know. Other than that, they did the whole match, had fun, were allowed to feel what wrestlers should feel when they're out there, the audience. And you know what I got after it happened? Man, I got a tongue lashing. Matt Bloom read me the riot act. I got in so much trouble. The Stooges were so happy because they got to go back to Matt and stooge it off. But I also witnessed this. Cut a promo. Say this. Okay. Tagline. Say the tagline. Good job. Everybody clap. I'm standing there going, that effing sucked. Like, what are you trying to tell me? I'm this. I'm the person who do this. And when you're this is what's going to happen. She hit it at 60 seconds. Oh my God. What the hell did she just say? I don't care.
That's exactly right. You know how some people actually say Michael Cole is the greatest announcer of all time? You know why? Because boy, can he get those sponsorship reads out without flubbing the lines once.
Who cares?
Who cares exactly? No, what did Michael Cole make you feel apart from sleepy? Like when compared to a Jim Ross or a Lance Russell.
He made me feel like going and watching the Heidenreich backstage promo with him. That's what he made me feel like. Heidenreich turned out to be a baby face.
I did a ha-ha.
Ha-ha.
I actually did that laugh. This one's very similar. Raccoon Records, Records NZ, so I presume New Zealand. All guys just have super kicks and dives to the outside. They all wrestle like Timu Shawn Michaels. There's a lot more to it. He talks about, as much as Hogan and Nash are maligned for their wrestling, at least they were way more distinctive and had their own, 5 moves of doom in that sense. But a lot of wrestlers these days, they all have the super kick, they all have the spear, they all have the tope. They all do mostly the same things. We'll get to the dives in a minute. Hold your thought on the dives, but everything else, boy howdy, everyone's cookie cutter these. And that was a criticism in the mid-2000s.
That was a criticism where everybody wore the baby blue back in the early 90s, like the Dean Douglas and the Body Donnas, and there's no identity there. There's one identity to everybody. How's that? You know why they do the cookie cutter stuff? I'm going to tell you what, it's a smart business move. You know why?
Because you can be replaced.
Be replaced by the time you're 25. You can just wash out. We can get another 21-year-old in there, get another 4 years, pay them almost nothing. You're not getting over. Best of luck in your future endeavors. Here comes the next one. That's what it is. I want to read this one because this person, these are, by the way, they're time stamping parts in the video as well. That's really, our commenters are awesome. Michael A. Burns. Michael is an awesome name, by the way. At the 16:30 mark in this Modern Wrestling clip, you can go watch it along with this comment. Stevie Richards just used the terms here saying WWE is creatively bankrupt. It's also lazy autopilot mode. How to fix WWE and wrestling in general. Number 1, bring back kayfabe. To a degree, it's already...
How can you do it, though?
No, but at least within the universe of the guardrails of the product on TV. Don't tell us it's fake every other show. Okay. Have visions of directions for talent. Easy enough. Experiment ideas for the audience to react to see what works or not. These are all Dutch Mantel things and basic Booker. TKO is heavily features too many ads. Stop and do it when undercard is on making their way down to the ring. Bring back house shows for talent to test waters for rivalries and entertain people. Expand beyond 4-match formula. There you go. 6 to 7 works for everyone to be featured on Raw or SmackDown. So this is a person just watching it as, obviously an intelligent fan or even a casual fan to say, but we're trying to sell to Saudi Arabia. So we need those ads and everything. And you know what? There could be people saying, like Slim Jim can say, hey, don't waste our Slim Jim tables on anything but the main event. And here's a price to pay, a premium price for that. Do you think that's the case, that we have tiered ad prices?
Oh yeah, everything's going to be priced differently.
We'll charge more for the main event if you want the vodka on the ring apron.
No, they'll just be saying you have to use a table on every single show, so therefore tables are completely redundant as well. We just got to get that Slim Jim ad. Everything's driven by money now. I mean, everything always was, but I mean, you have to use a table because the sponsor demands that you use the table. We are fulfilling our quota, we're fulfilling our contractual obligations by this wrestler being written in to use this table at this time. And the logo has to be on screen for at least 30 seconds a show to meet our requirements. That's all I see when the tables are sponsored.
Yeah.
But that's another segment of at least 8 we've got to go through. Let me read you one more from the training.
Could I read this one then, please?
Yeah, go on.
This is funny. That GPT storyline for Stevie's return, ? I'm 100% invested. It's the most interesting storyline in years. That's not because it's great. That's because everything else is awful.
I thought it did a pretty good job, even though it was a 4-week arc. You could, WWE these days will stretch about 7 years out
That's
of that
4
story.
more weeks than I got when I worked there.
Last one on the training. Branko says the real problem with today's wrestling is pacing and storytelling. There was a video here on YouTube where Eddie Guerrero and I believe it's Eddie and Ray watched back an old match from WCW, and Ray was absolutely right when he said, slow down the tempo. It's not just, that's what you were saying at the NXT thing. Slow down the tempo. Where it's not just about hitting the move after move after move. Today's wrestling is a spot fest instead of telling a story, and they're absolutely right. That's why nothing can replace wrestlers like Bret, Austin, Eddie, Ray, etc. Guys who go by the feel and the read of the crowd instead of rehearsing everything. Now, who goes by the feel of the crowd? Because I'll guarantee you, even people on top, we've seen it on Unreal with our own eyes. Abyss is telling them what to do every step of the way. We need to get the shot of you looking at the top of the cage at 18 minutes. There it is, a beautiful shot. Are we all right, Bruce? Please stop staring at me like that. You know, that's how it goes. There is nothing organic about anything that happens in WWE. That is where AEW should have a huge edge on them.
AEW has...
They don't exploit it.
The WWE just keeps giving AEW every single opportunity to compete and usurp them. They really do. They really give them the opportunity to be so different and the opposite. And you might say the gore or the bad or any of the other stuff, at least in a way they're trying. They're trying. It might not, they might be a little displaced at times, you know, along with people's spines. But at the same time, they have every opportunity. WWE is doing what the NFL or any other sport in the world, they're not playing to win. They're just kind of playing not to lose, which gives other companies the opportunity to take the market share and the mind share from the fans as a true. That's why ECW got over, to be a true alternative to that. And that's why the Attitude kind of got over, because the Attitude Era was actually an alternative to actual WWE from the past. So yeah, it's just
Vince
crazy.
threw his hands up in the air and just went, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Do what you want. And it worked.
He
for the
let
most
it
part.
go and let it become more organic product. That's what and it went a little out of control at times. But as Vince told me, when I used to come out so intense for some of my stuff, because as a talent, you're trying to get noticed, and sometimes you overcompensate, talking about the Jey Uso thing. So I'll come out super intense before the match even started, just trying to get eyes to look at me. And he said to me, hey, there's no gears. If you start out way up here, everything else is going to be like this. Start it, come out, you got to have energy. And he goes, but you have to have headroom to have that energy for the end of the match. You have to have gears. Like Ray explained, Ray's probably, every single person that does high spots should just try to copy Rey Mysterio's pacing, gears, because he's a high spot wrestler. But he still has psychology, storyline, sympathy. A guy with a mask can emote and sell better than the people without a mask. What's wrong with this? It's like Bizarro World.
We could get into the selling and everything like that, but I think that's enough for that segment because we've got many more to go through. This is definitely a part 2, man. Okay, so we have to get on some of the worst spots in wrestling, in modern wrestling that people do, and one of them just kept coming up again and again and again. So with this clip, everybody, we're going to talk about one. Stevie's going to give a couple more of his ideas of what the worst spots in wrestling are. Please, for a future video, and we will talk about this in a future video, I promise you, let us know in the comments below what you think the worst spot in wrestling is currently. Does it involve a leg slap, for example? But anyway, it can be anything you want. Right, so 3 separate people, at least from what I saw, mentioned the exact same thing. Chris Me Good says, I just hate when there is a big high-flying spot and everyone is just standing around looking at the guy, waiting to jump on them. It's stupid. Stevie, could you agree more with that? What say you?
Well, I would say I totally agree. And actually, the girls somehow topped the guys with that. And we saw it with the what went wrong with Raquel, just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Or everybody starts doing some sort of barbershop quartet where everybody just puts their arms around each other and does like the Rockettes or something before waiting. You notice that everybody goes kumbaya and starts hugging each other to get that. Now, obviously, it has to be safe. Dives are very, like we talked about with the Cody Hall, Young Bucks early in the episode, that you could land on someone's head. But even if you have 8 to 10 people, what do they usually do? Shoulder, neck, head. They don't get caught. Or the person either goes over them. Montez Ford has done that a few times and land on his feet where you didn't even need those people there. Or in my case, whenever I tried to dive, you fall very, very short of the mark and land on your head on the floor. And but if you're Dominic, you're just playing possum and you can come and just try to beat Cena.
There's the Tiffany Stratton one where I think she ended up whacking her head on the back.
Oh, and the moonsault where she landed on her feet and got a concussion. So, yeah, Charlotte used to do that too, like a moonsault that she wouldn't, they were too far away, too close, something, or she tried to do it to like somebody the size of like Alexa Bliss. It's just like so weird. That's another thing. You know what some of the stupidest spots are? When you don't take into account the height difference, especially with a double backdrop, a double shoulder block, a double clothesline. They just don't think in terms of what's this look like? It's all video game wrestling in that way. Is there any spots in the video game? We got to play WWE 2K soon. Is there any spots in the video games where everybody gathers around in the cutscene and takes the dive?
Not from what I know, but it happens so much in wrestling. Here's the thing. I think the more people waiting to catch you there, the more likely nobody will catch you at all, because it ends up being the bystander effect. Where, you know, with the Leon Slater thing in TNA, where he's diving like 16 feet. It's funny, I Googled that because we couldn't remember the guy's name, and the first 2 videos that comes up is Stevie Richards talks about, and then under it is Dutch Mantel talks about. We really hammered that one home on the WSI network. So, yeah, like there was 8 people for Leon Slater, and they parted like he was Moses dropping down there.
And in a way, in reality, they should. Why would you want to? Why would you stand there and have somebody that just go in front of?
Everyone's Samoa Joe. Everyone turns into Samoa Joe all of a sudden. Nope. They all go nope and go shh.
But that's actually the most realistic part of it. Even though the kid was like, "Man, thank God he's okay." But yeah, what can you do with that except also not have every single person do a dive on the show? How many dives do you do? It really should be relegated for people to do it the best. Not only the size or anything like that, but who does it the best. And then when you have a Roman Reigns or a Taker or something, by the way, Taker would do that dive that, you know, the what went wrong is snook his kid and missed him when he had the camera, remember? WrestleMania versus Shawn. But Taker would really only bring that out at big pay-per-views, mostly WrestleManias, to dive onto somebody like that. But it just seems like now every single week, and like you said, maybe we can address this because I think this is also a lot of reasons why. No house shows. So therefore, you have WrestleMania every single TV. I'm just going to put it on the line. I got 5 days to recover or 7 or whatever. Also, how does it stand out as special, like you said on the earlier part about Survivor Series? The length of Raw and SmackDown right now are the same exact length as a pay-per-view. What's so special about that? It's almost like if you only had an hour to fill, they didn't have enough time to get in all those spots that don't mean anything. They can save them for the pay-per-view. What say you?
I want to go back to the dives thing because there's something else that always gets me about it. Is how come, like, all the wrestlers, as you say, they're a barbershop quartet, they're all huddled together, and then the diver will land on one of them, and then all of a sudden they're all made out of electricity, and that electricity travels to everybody in the huddle, and they all
collateral
fall down.
Damage.
Yeah, the collateral damage. It's like it's like an A bomb dropping, and you get the initial impact, and then the sort of
you get the fallout around.
Yeah, you get the fallout at the end of it.
You're asking me a rhetorical question. You just answered your question.
I am doing that. Is there anything else that bugs you to that level?
Well, I mean, you said leg slap. That hurt me a little bit, but at least I was trying to hide it most times.
That was your finisher, though, at least.
At least, yeah. And I hit it a lot of times or slap my stomach. And Jerry Lawler kind of like, except he would slap your stomach when he punched you. He would sell your stomach when he punched you in the head.
I want to stick with the dives and stuff. There's 2 things I want to bring up to you. You tell me. Oh, no. This is actually goes to booking of a show at large. I remember when I had Joey Mercury on like a few years ago, and I asked him, "Would you review WrestleMania with me?" It was 30. It was the one that Cody Rhodes turned back up on, so it was 38 maybe after the AEW run. And every single match, he concluded the review of the match with, "Oh, by the way, they went to the floor." And at some point, didn't going to the floor used to be a fairly sacred thing that you wouldn't do too much of now? And now every match has a dive to the floor. So going to the floor now means nothing. Now, a dive now means nothing because, one, it doesn't win anybody a match. And two, it doesn't put anybody out of action or even give you the advantage for very long anymore.
You know what the dive represents? We talked about the ads. It represents a commercial break and an opportunity to make some money. That's all it is. How many times do they do a dive or something on the outside? We got to go to the break. They come back. They're right back in the ring. So you don't even, sometimes you would see a replay. This is the point. What did going to the floor or going outside of the ring represent back when it meant something? Everybody comment below. What do you think it meant, James?
I'll tell you what it meant for me is, one, it was more dangerous, and two, it could have led to a count out. And there was always a race to get back in, so it actually added excitement. Oh, the match could end any second.
The match became more dangerous. The match broke down, and you could get the count out, or you could get a double count out, or you could get a disqualification. But most times, there was a level of excitement and danger. They're going to the outside. Oh, my God, they're brawling now. And that's another thing. You go to the outside, they're doing hurricanranas on the outside. What used to happen on the outside? We're fighting. Now it's a bar fight. When you get back in the ring, what is it? It becomes a wrestling match, or the brawl continues back in the ring and then trying to win the match. On the outside, it's just outside of... Dude, I've seen people go to the outside and fight and brawl on the outside on the same show where there's a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Mm-hmm.
Protect, like you said, what did you say? There's stipulations looking for a match instead of a match looking for a stipulation. It's mind-boggling how much they complicated. It's not hard to do. Duchess said it. Russo said it. Cornette said it. Tons of people had said it. This stuff is not rocket science. It's not hard to book.
Let's move to the next point. And this, I think actually there was a couple of people that I want to address their comments as well that I saved, but it goes on to the still the dive stuff. Look no further.
And by the way,
EOS,
this isn't
guys.
negative. Some people commented like, "Oh, you guys are just negative. You're down or anything." I want the talent to make multi-generational money, do it, and be much healthier than I am right now at 54. And I'm blessed to have the health I even have, and to be able to do whatever they want with no pain or very little. That's what they're doing. It's a meat grinder rather than building stars and legends. God, I'm sorry.
Lovely Waz said, look no further than Io Sky's trash can spot in War Games. It took her what felt like ages, and the rest of the team was standing underneath with open arms, looking like a bunch of idiots waiting to get mauled by a bear rather than trying to avoid it. I don't think there's anything, I mean, pretty much addressed all of that, I think. And H. Hammer also writes, personal for me, there's two issues that really annoy me about wrestling. One, dumb referees are everywhere. But hey, I mean, that's been the case. I
have that comment too. We're on the same page.
Number two, the insane time it takes to build up spots where wrestlers stand in a spot for 10-15 seconds waiting for said spot, or moving to a weird spot for a finisher, aka Soul Reaper, Cody Cutter, etc.
What were you you talking about the Cody Cutter?
What the hell's the Soul Reaper? I'm trying to figure out who has that.
I have no idea. Does that come from the power of the little helmet, the little hat?
Maybe it's $60,000 worth of power in that.
I have no idea what the Soul Reaper is.
Okay, well, the Cody Cutter, for example, then. But, okay, yeah, 10, 15 seconds standing there waiting, looking stupid.
Yeah, but I would say that Cody keeps that as tight as he can. Cody's really good. He's great, actually. He can do it in a way where he's ping-ponging somebody or pinballing them and getting them kind of staggered and then hit the Cody Cutter off the second rope or even the top. I'd say Cody it can improve. but Cody does it about the best and the tightest way. Cody takes great care in his craft. And you know what it is? It would be better if Cody had more creative control because he still has to, even in the main event, like world champion status, he still needs to pacify. Oh, yeah, Bruce. Yeah, Hunter, you guys are so smart. No, you're not. Cody knows what he's doing. Cody enjoys the show.
I'm going to counter that, Stevie, with this. No selling finishers. That is the next topic we have here. And Cody Rhodes is an absolute prime candidate for throwing away his finisher and doing about 18 times per main event match. But anyway, Kevin H. writes, nothing turns me off more in modern wrestling than the finisher spam we see today. Even wrestlers you would think would know better fall into this trap, where no moves mean anything anymore. I would say that Cody Rhodes is maybe, in this instance, public enemy number one, cheapening, prostituting his finisher to the point where even a mid-card guy, it takes him probably more than one Crossroads, to finish them off. It's just, finishers now mean nothing.
Yeah, but that's the system. That's the system, and that's the creative stuff that they're doing to make sure that that's what you see in every match. And by the way, we get WrestleMania kickouts and multiple finishes, not just at WrestleMania when it was kind of like fashionable to do it then, right? Now we're getting it on TV. So now nothing means nothing. And, like I said, I am biased, as I always am, even though most of the talent in the industry hates me right now. I am talent friendly. I'm on the side of the talent. And Cody knows better. He obviously, his dad is Dusty Rhodes. You talk about a guy who protected finishes, except for the time they did Dusty finishes and switched it, foot on the rope, Tommy Young counting 3, things like that. But Cody knows better. A lot of them know better, but they have to, as Dreamer said, you got to play the game, Marco. You got to play.
Change comes from the top, though, man, and Cody's on top. He should be the one. He's on top,
but he's not the top of the food chain in the company.
Oh yeah, but Triple H was, and I'll guarantee no one was kicking out of that pedigree.
But guess what? Triple H and Shawn are also accused of keeping talent down as their retired wrestlers to make sure their legacies are protected, because you just mentioned it. Well, Hunter must be better than Cody because that's exactly what they want. They are at a time where they will always be special and better than the current talent because they're not employing the same protection for the characters, the finishes, the gimmicks, the storylines that they used to have.
Seth Rollins does the pedigree, and people kick out of the pedigree when Seth Rollins does it.
But not Triple H.
But not Triple H.
You don't think this is by accident? Or not on purpose?
I don't think they're Machiavellian enough to think that far in advance. I don't think they're playing 4D chess on that deal.
I've been around these people more than you. Machiavellian is good description. They overthink the stupidest crap. Trust me.
I just can't conceive of the brain that would overthink things to that degree, but that's quite common, you would suggest.
Yes. Pettiness. And they're training on Shawn's right there in NXT. Is he just leaving this little detail out, not so little detail out, before they go to the main roster, before he gives them the hug and the hat? No. Omission by intention.
Jay Von Krieg? Some of these usernames, man, I don't know how to pronounce them. My personal hate is when there is a super high impact move, they sell it for 5 seconds and then boom, onto the next spot without much of a break, and the person who was just superplexed or something is running full speed and not selling they just got hit. It's maddening. So this goes on the finishers, but this goes to any high impact move. When did this become the norm, do you think?
Well, Ben Hameen has a theory, and I tend to agree with it. What style are we looking at for the past however many years, or even going on maybe a couple of decades? The ROH style, Ring of Honor style. These are Ring of Honor workers. These are Ring of Honor matches put together. There's no storylines, but there's tons of finishes. I hate to put it on him. The first glaringly obvious part that there was like, oh my God, nobody's going to sell anything. Superplex Falcon's Arrow. You superplex a guy from up here, then you do a suplex where you turn and sit out, and the guy kicks out. Would you say that would be maybe the beginning of the end right there?
Do you think it's come from Japan?
A mix between Japan and ROH. That's what I would say.
Yeah, because I mean they would do the no selling thing a lot in Japan, beforehand. The fighting spirit situation.
Well, they're missing they have every element except the finish as a schoolboy. That's Japan. You hit them with everything and then schoolboy for the finish. And then eventually the guy has to have his brain removed and put back in.
Yes, Paul Shibata, I hear that was a 30-minute procedure he had to go through to have his brain cleaned and removed and put back in like a bowling
Sometimes
ball.
I feel like my brain's removed after watching these shows.
Some journalists, I've read their stuff, that I feel like they never had their brain put back in.
But lots of papers.
Yes.
Strewn around.
Lots of writing.
My wife said, is that real or did he do that on? No, I said, every picture is that.
Okay, I had a theory. Or if I ever had a wrestling promotion, this is how I would bring finishers back. You tell me if it's a good idea. I may have said it before. One day, you just say, you make an announcement saying, we're changing the rings. Because apparently people can take more slams than they used to, etc. You dress it up however you want. We are changing the ring so it's stiffer. And there's going to be more impact on every single move. But what you actually do is mic the ring differently and then put a bit of canvas on it that's a different colour. Just so it's got some distinction between the old canvas. And then, do you remember when WrestleMania 12 happened, or even better, the Barely Legal ring, where every single slam was like, you could hear the metal rattle every time. And do it that way. And then, as soon as the new ring is introduced, every move, even a body slam, you react like it's killed you. And then when a finisher happens, whether it's a crossroads or whatever it might be, or a superplex where it basically knocks both people out, then you can then basically reset people taking too many moves, like a superplex into a Falcon's Arrow, and then you can go back to, or not a bog standard move, but let's say a powerbomb or anybody's finisher will always get the job done because the surface is so hard. That was my galaxy brain way of trying to bring finishers back to prominence again.
Oh, wow. The placebo effect. Is that what you're talking about? We have this group that thinks the ring is stiffer, so we need to work safer because bumps hurt more.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I like that. I like it. I like it because if you do that, or people not care, but you have to have, this is where you have to work the boys and the girls. You have to have one or two, maybe three people in on it, that when they take the bump, they actually get hurt. And they act like their back is out and they do like, oh my God. And they come back and you plant that placebo effect and you plant that seed into everybody and you work everybody into a shoot to have a better product. I like it. I think it's unconventional, but man, we are living in times where you need to have unconventional thinking to rein this back in.
Anything else to add with the finishes? Because we'll do one more and then we'll save the rest for next week.
Not that I can think of. I think people are still kicking out finishes as we're recording the show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cody Rhodes and John Cena are still wrestling because that match actually never ended from SummerSlam. Right.
Well, Travis Scott was cherry on top. We needed that.
Oh, that was WrestleMania.
Yeah, I know.
He's still walking to the ring, I believe.
Still.
He might just be walking back.
Patting that belt.
Well, he's never coming back. Thank goodness. Right, okay, let's get to the final part, and this is your favourite. You've been hinting at it throughout the show. Entrances. Let me there was quite a few people who wrote this as well. Mike Crawford. The importance of entrance music. Are you looking at me because you had that exact comment?
Yeah.
Okay. I could just tell, just the way you held your face, I knew it. Entrance dancing and sing-along crap is what made me stop watching wrestling a few years ago. Most of my wrestling entertainment has come from Corny's podcast for a long time. Music on run-ins. I'll add the exception to Steve Austin because it was always great when his music came on. Finishers. Going in for the whole match, diving flip moves from the jump. It peaked in the 90s and they took all the wrong parts from that era and just ran with it. I think that's a great point at the end there as well. But let's not do the choreograph thing. Music on run-ins specifically. What do you say about the Sandman before?
Well, Sandman, but also New Jack. It used to be a big joke like the music hits and everybody keeps fighting as if the guy's not going to come out with a million weapons and nobody leaves the ring. Sandman on the entrance is when he's coming to save you and hits the music, you know, I better survive for about 7 minutes and 44 seconds because the worst best friend a person could have is eventually going to save me and hopefully bring me to the hospital so they can put me in a medically induced coma. Used to be a joke. Now it's not so much. Now I will say Austin's the exception. You know why? Because when the glass broke, he ran to the ring and he started kicking butt. And Liv Morgan's entrance, it comes to the ring and then everything goes to a stop standstill, right? Or how many times Michael Cole going to say, he's back, she's back? Like everybody goes away and comes back. That's why Russo calls Hunter the king of pops. That's all you're booking for. Yeah, the entrance, the music on the entrance, the most exciting things I've ever seen have been in the old NWA where the fans were reacting, getting heat on the heels for beating up the babyface. And then someone just slides in out of nowhere. And before you know it, there's a brawl and you're like, who is that? Oh my God, it's him. That's where the excitement comes. This is the inverse. I don't know why they, and then you get a stadium show, the run-in takes about 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's when they're running.
Yeah.
I was trying to think who was running in the War Games. Who was running in the War Games? Jimmy Uso half ran for half of the entrance. Brock Lesnar walked, but he's Brock Lesnar. I mean, that's fair enough. But man, and it's not just the entrance of the War Games that takes up half of the 3-minute break until the next person comes in. Talk about the choreograph. At any point where you were in WWE up to 2008, did anybody tell you that you had to do a certain pose as soon as you came out and then a completely different pose when you got to the ring?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, when I was doing the stuff with Victoria and she had left me to go on her own, they never explained it. But I had Coach and Al Snow explain the fact when I came out, I was completely devoid of any emotion, excitement. It was like if you break up with somebody you love and you're just like down in the dumps, you don't do your hair, you're just walking around like a zombie. And I did that for a few weeks to the point where they were asking me in Grill, like, why are you doing that? Well, no, Victoria was with me for a year. Now we're not together. We're kind of broken up. You didn't explain it. So I'm using emotion to say I'm not myself. And also, it gave me a reason to lose matches in a way. I mean, I never won them when I was on point, but you know what they said to me? Just get to the ring. Stop doing that. So I didn't stop doing it, but they wanted to take whatever made me stand out. But that was the beginning of no matter what you do, just do your standard entrance, hit your pose, but they never told me, get up there, say, I'll show you, get up there, put your hand up in the air when you're on the second rope. I did that all. They didn't care about me. So it was a freeing thing. But today, or I saw it at the Performance Center, when you come out, hit it here. Then when the bass hits here, we used to make jokes at indie wrestlers that would stand at the curtain going, my bass didn't hit until 40 seconds. And you would just shove them through the curtain. Get out there.
Did it start more with the women first? I seem to remember it did. Because who was the one who would stand out in the audience and then blow a kiss and go, do that all the way around? And I just remember thinking, why are you doing that? Just get to the ring.
Oh, who was that?
Damn it. It's one thing for Batista to do, the machine gun and pyro and everything, because, that's a big thing and he's a big star.
I know also Sasha Banks, as NFL on Fox would call her, but Sasha Banks would stand there, do this, and then do the little hip thing. Bailey had the thing with the big used car lot thing. I hit the microphone. Sorry. I'm trying to think of who blew the kiss. It wasn't the Bellas.
I don't know. I feel like it might have been not Candice LeRae, Candice Michelle or someone. I don't know.
Well, Candice Michelle did the timing, and then she would do All Eyes on Me and open up the robe kind of thing on the apron and time it to that. But man, the NXT thing really made people just all do that, lockstep, the Archer of Infamy and the boom, 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 up in the air, do this, shoot the arrow. The flames come up on the Titantron. Just too much, man.
Oh, man.
Hey, but I think Like that poor guy, man. Hell, he was world champion. Now what are they doing with him? Nothing.
Yeah, but you know what I think? Because I don't gravitate towards him. I know people within the business love him, but as a fan watching, there's nothing that's grabbing me. I don't think he's a big personality.
He
I think
could have
that's his
been.
biggest problem.
He could have been. He's a giant of a dude, and he can work.
No, I'm talking about like a big charisma guy that you're drawn to. I mean, he's basically a big guy who can work. There's a lot of big guys who can work.
You got to think about this company too. Vince got a sword for his birthday, by the way, from Triple H and Stephanie. That's Drew McIntyre's sword. So he used to come to the ring with the sword. You're Scott. Hey, you're Scottish. You come to the ring with a sword. And you say, well, I don't know. Yeah, what are you, a smart ass? You're a Scottish smart ass. So, but Drew come out and have to do that thing. That's not Drew McIntyre. The Drew McIntyre we've seen since the CM Punk social media trolling. That's the Drew McIntyre that I want to see every week, not the sword stuff. They just get in their own way trying to, like I said last week, you show up, nobody sits down with you says, what did you grow up doing? What are your favorite things? What do you like? What kind of personality do you have? They say, oh, we asked ChatGPT who you should be, and this is who you should be. And then when it doesn't work, you either release the wrestler for not getting over, or you finally give in to who they are when it's almost too late.
I want to ask you, who do you think had some entrance? We're not talking about the super elaborate ones like The Undertaker, but who had an entrance that never got old, but they didn't dwell on it too much? Because once again, Jey Uso, they do it for 10 minutes. Roman Reigns, they do it for 10 minutes. Other people just take two. Cody Rhodes, it goes through like a song and a half. So they can go, whoa, like 18 times. Do you know entrance I really liked that seemed really organic, but it got on with it, but was still really striking? Rey Mysterio's when he did the big jump out of the trapdoor. I thought that was great. A famous one, The Brood. Really fantastically visual. They all do their thing. It's really spooky. The music, that's another thing. The music these days sucks compared to what it used to be, unless it's high-end, like in living color.
You have to get real licensed music from real bands outside of wrestling to get over. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the other point of those entrances were they lasted about a minute and a half and they got on with it as well. So it's the pure length.
Some of my favorite, I don't know why it always spoke to me as a tag team and singles wrestler, the Hart Foundation and Bret Hart, the music would hit. It had that ramp up pulsing thing, the original one. I don't like the guitar riff one from Bret.
Oh, I love that one.
But I like the just a boom, 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 and it comes up into that, and they get to the ring, but they have so much energy. And when they get to the ring, where everybody can see them, they emote there to what they do. That's what I really like. Shawn had a great entrance. It was there, but a minute and a half, but you had the segments of that where he would do it.
He's the main event star. That's what I'm saying. He should have the big entrance. I don't think 100 people should have 100 vaguely unique versions. It's not even unique, slightly different variations of the exact same entrance where you hit the same beats. You have to do the pose as soon as you come out through the curtain. Then you have to hit the separate pose in the ring. And you may have some weird way of getting in the ring to sort of differentiate slightly.
You know who it's
100 people do. Say some people should just be Steve Blackman. They should just walk out, get in the ring, and wait for their opponent.
But it does that and hits all the spots and all the poses, but does it at a point where you don't get tired of it, is LA Knight. I think LA Knight is the good mix of he does the thing when he gets there, but that initial, when you hear LA Knight and the music hits, you get the pop, he comes out walking, looking around, obviously he mixes The Rock and Austin in his character, so he's amalgamating the best of what he can in the entrance. Rocky's entrance never gets old. When it pops up in my feed while I'm doing cardio, when he came out as the final boss, where it went from, if you smell like the Rock, what the Rock is cooking, into the more hard edge heel version, and they did the little 180 around him. I was like, that's perfect. Because you also have to remember too, you have to add poise and presence into the entrance to where people can see that you're relaxed to getting into the ring. You have that confidence. Like when I used to go to the ring with the high energy, I just mentioned that. It felt like a desperate energy attempt to get attention. You know, you have to also say, you people are watching me. I'm not, you're, you're playing to my rhythm. I'm not playing to yours. You got to remember that.
Yeah, but once again, there's a big difference between The Rock, who's a main event megastar, and someone like Lash Legend. It's like if she was given the same thing, and I'm not talking like Jade Cargill should have that kind of entrance. Someone like, I'll mention her again, Lyra Valkyria, someone like that. She shouldn't have that entrance. Or who's the, and I'll always forget her name, the chick who's like she's always wears the glasses. She's just come on the main roster.
Oh, Big SmackDown. Purse. I don't know her name either. She has the big purse.
I can never remember her name. But anyway.
Well, they're making stars, aren't they?
I've seen her enough times, and I can't remember her name.
She's the one with the purple-haired girl with the braids, right? The dreadlocks.
Yeah, what's her name?
Yep.
They shouldn't get that entrance, is what I'm saying. Like,
until 100 people don't need.
Yeah. Well, yeah, certain people shouldn't get bespoke 5-minute entrances, is what I'm saying. You can have your personality and stuff, but you can tell it's also choreographed.
It's 3-hour shows. Mm-hmm. That's why they're getting, if it was 1 hour or 90 minutes, we don't have time for everybody to have a big entrance until the main event. They can't do it because it's all about money. It's all about quarterly. It's all about stock price. It's all about selling the Saudi. But in a creative world, they've all booked themselves into an ad placement corner, into a licensing fee corner. Can't avoid it now. Dude, I have no doubt you can laugh at me, just like when I said SmackDown's going to go to 3 hours. Everybody on Russo's thing laughed at me. These shows are eventually going to go to 4 hours.
Yeah, could be. We've talked about the music. Okay, right, I've heard this recently, and I think this is an AEW attempt to knock WWE or fans knocking fans kind of thing. But it's claimed that WWE people who actually pay for the tickets are there just as much for the entrances as they are for the matches. What say you?
Wow, they're spending a lot of money on entrances. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. He caught me while I was taking a drink and my mic was muted. Sorry. But I would say, would say for a fact, if you are paying $900 for way back, or you're paying $70,000 for entrances, obviously WrestleMania are going to get matches over 2 days. But what were the other SmackDown and Raws? Easily $1,000 or more to watch entrances and 4 matches in 3 hours. You know what you can do? Buy yourself a kick-ass TV, a big surround system, order food, and you'll still come in cheaper than going to the show. And you can have that entrance blaring all you want. You can stomp your foot like Rhea Ripley. You can do whatever you want. You can yeet. You can stand up. You can go up on your kitchen island like you're in the stands and do your yeeting. Do all that stuff.
Or get a VPN, save even more money.
Are you tired of watching boring commercials? That popped in my feed yesterday. I always watch it and laugh.
Right then, we'll leave that there for now. We're going to do a part 2 on that next week. I believe we are, unless it's fan questions next week. I can't remember. Anyway, something's going to happen next week.
It's Roddy Piper next week. I promise you that.
Is it?
Roddy Piper part 2. It's supposed to be this week.
When did we last do fan questions?
No, that's for the end of the year, for the break.
No, I think we're doing fan questions, then we're doing a second one.
Dude, you're the boss. Just tell me what to do. I'll be here.
I know. I'm open to suggestions.
No, you're not. You're always correct. Hey, how about we do this? And you go, no.
That is true. That has happened. All right, then. Let's do the news then. And it's not really news. It's all what went wrongs and what went rights. So, the first one, we're going to go back to Survivor Series of this past weekend. And this was in the men's War Game match. Bron Breakker takes a Doomsday device. And for the life of me, I don't know who was... You always say this beforehand, Stevie. People don't quite take into account people's heights when they do things like this. This might be a prime example of a move where height was not taken into consideration before the move was attempted. So, Stevie, not to give the game away, I guess, but over to you. What went wrong?
Thank you, James. By the way, during the break, with my obsessive compulsive nature, We are going to test the green screen and get that down. So no green screen today, probably not until the new year. So I can do weeks and weeks and weeks of testing. But I'm never going to test this with my neck. Doomsday device, Survivor Series, as you call it, James, Board Games. Here we have a Doomsday device. This is a tribute to LOD, the Road Warriors, who used to do a clothesline off the top rope as Animal had somebody on their shoulders. Hawk would clothesline them, most times for real, to flip them so they would land on their stomach, knees, chest, whatever it might be. This time, not so much. So this is Cody Rhodes taking the place of Animal, and CM Punk is up on the top rope, being Hawk, doing a clothesline to Bron Breakker. That's the setup. The technique should be where Bron Breakker has enough momentum from Cody pushing on his calves and Punk essentially stiffing Bron Breakker with a clothesline to flip him, to give them the momentum to flip him over. That also didn't happen. So let's take a look at it right here. So sets him up, brings him over to Punk. I like the fact they used two corners and Punk didn't even clothesline him. Did you notice that? We're going to slow it down right here and freeze. He didn't even get him. He like kind of palm striked him in the chest. And what do we get from that? That's the part that absolutely goes wrong. Punk did not do a heavy enough clothesline with Cody. Cody is pushing the calves, but you need to literally drive through the guy to flip him and land him. And of course, that's what we get. It's very scary, by the way, when your hips go over your head. I can't do a backflip, moonsault, or any of that stuff. It's tough. But really, you see it right here. He kind of tries to push him with the left arm right there, but it doesn't work out. That's the scary part. Kind of sideways with the neck, feet over to the head, and just kind of off to one side. That's when you can really break your neck right there. And dude just sat there. You can see his face. Like, what in the world? Almost like he's got that concussion. Did you ever see in the NFL the quarterback Tua for the Dolphins? He took a sack, got up, and started doing this thing with his hands and trying to kind of grab at his head in midair. And it's just kind of a scary thing. Did they do a replay? Here it is.
They did, but it was the same angle pretty much. Is this just CM Punk being kind of really unathletic? Because he seemed to barely get any distance whatsoever.
Yeah, what Punk is trying to think is it's a very unpredictable fall to the guy giving the clothesline. You kind of got to brace yourself or land on your shoulder or on the side of your hip. And that's what Punk was doing. See, he landed on his foot. Do you notice that? Which, by the way, you could blow your knee out as you're trying to do that. So Punk, by the way, he shouldn't land so much earlier than Bron Breakker. It should be kind of even, or you're trying to clothesline through to make sure the legs go over the head. So yeah, this is mostly because Cody is definitely pushing up on the knees. You see it right there? He's pushing up as he goes, but let's get the other, I mean, it's the same angle, but Cody is pushing right here, as you can see. See his hands pushing up? That's right, but it's two parts of momentum that you need to create. In other words, like I said, Punk almost needs to hook and stiff Bron Breakker and swing through with the clothesline, not hit him in the face, but upper, right in the throat or the upper chest. And then that flips him all the way over. So we can go to the Godwinn one where they did it, where LOD did it, the Godwinns, but this is kind of self-explanatory. It mostly goes on Punk because Bron Breakker can't do anything except rely on Cody and Punk to flip his body over for the Doomsday device.
When should CM Punk be landing then? Should it be concurrent with Bron landing?
At the very minimum. If not, the flip the flip needs to occur first. So Cody pushing on the knees, Punk clotheslining, and that momentum, that it's kind of like the total elimination from the Eliminators. Remember the high low. This is a high low to flip Bron Breakker and make sure Cody is pushing, and it's a timing thing, by the way, too. Punk and Cody need to do it at the same exact time. If the timing's off, as you see right here, by the way, it's really cool that Cody brought him over. Bam. And Bron Breakker did try to flip on his own, but he's not planted into the mat or on the top rope to do a backflip.
I wonder, so as you said that Bron was sat there sort of tapping his head and whatever else he was doing, do you think in the immediate, would Bron, because he's quite inexperienced, the first question would be, if he's thinking straight, was it my fault or was it somebody else's? Do you immediately go through that thought process of who screwed that up?
No, I think he goes through the thought process of, can I move my legs and my arms? And I'm absolutely instantly about to get the worst migraine ever. That's what it is. It's almost like he's in shock for like a few seconds, right? He's like, where am I? What am I doing? And then because of the pecking order, is Bron Breakker really going to say, oh, it's Cody and Punk's fault? This dude went to the back and said, no, it was my fault. And then Punk says, no, it was my fault. And then Cody says, no, I could have did this better. And everybody kind of moves on. I have no doubt that Bron Breakker got a concussion.
He didn't wrestle the next day, although he did cut a promo, of course.
But I think he got a concussion. Let's look at now this actually broke Godwinn's neck, right? Henry Godwinn broke his neck off this, correct?
Yeah, but he was back in 2 months.
Because
how scary is that?
Well, that's where modern wrestling, you could say there's an improvement, because if Henry Godwinn did not work back then when he was booked, what didn't he get? Paid.
Time off.
He didn't get paid. No, you take time off, you don't get paid.
What do you know? In late '97, he may have been on a low downside guarantee, maybe, because he started bringing those in '96. Depends on when he signed, I guess.
Well, Mark Merrow is the first one to get a guaranteed contract in WWF, so we have to think.
And the second one was Sable. He got signed at the same time. I think third one was Pillman. Then they started migrating people over the next year or so to everyone getting a downside guarantee to compete with WCW.
Dude, I have to point out the font. I'm a font snob, even though I can't find a proper one half the time. What do you think about the font? Not the Whereas Were, but the Next.
Oh, I really like it.
Yeah.
I really like it.
I mean, that's what his neck looked like after the Doomsday device. I'm sure he'd say that. Let's see. He still did the flip, but it was kind of sideways like a cartwheel, right? What did Henry say went wrong with this? Because you interviewed him, right?
Yeah, he's massive. He didn't want to do it.
I wouldn't want to do it either.
He thought it would go... I mean, how big is he? 6'5", 6'6", legitimate? He's a huge dude. He didn't want to do it because he's too tall, and he knew he was too tall. And the Legion of Doom, either Vince or LOD talked him into it, and was like, I guess, okay, I'll do it. But... look, LOD did it two different ways. They could do the flip way, or they could let you down like an electric chair drop. I, for the life of me, do not understand why they just didn't do it the safer way with an opponent who knew he couldn't flip over like that. And do you think he did the cartwheel thing because he was uncomfortable with going backwards moonsault ways like you are?
No, I think it was just the flip was at whatever the momentum flip was going to be. He wasn't trying to control anything. It's just... if you're not used to having the technique to do a backflip and have the hips over your head upside down looking, it's kind of like the Styles Clash. I could never take it, and I took it wrong because everybody's always used to tucking their chins, not looking back. So I would say this too. What went right with this is Animal is pushing up off the knees, and Hawk, what's he doing? Clothesline. Look, he hooked him. So that's pushing him over. But then, as you come over here, it's just a momentum. Hawk didn't push the legs. The one leg came up first. You see that left knee coming up first? And then as you go slow, that kind of put him in the cartwheel position right there. Yeah, the thing with the what went wrong with this is the fact that they forced Henry Godwinn to take it and not do the electric chair version. Why did they do that? Maybe this what went wrong is the reason why they started. I've never seen them do an electric chair until after this one. This might have prompted that.
I think there may be more angles in this video. I don't know. I know I've seen different angles of it.
Here it is.
Here we go.
Oh.
Oh.
And that ring is the WrestleMania
shotgun.
That's the WrestleMania 3 ring. That's the Hogan Andre Formica ring, right?
Mm.
Dude, that is bad. Oh my goodness. He could have been paralyzed.
Well, I'm surprised he wasn't paralyzed when he came back as well, because once again, he came back in like 2 months.
Even this, the way he was covered, the impact on your spine, you know what I mean? I'm sure they were just covering him to try, oh, wow, he landed on his head. But think about it. He's landing with 75, 85 pounds onto him as he has a broken neck. He can disjoint everything right there. That is rough. Dude, that's rough. The only thing that probably didn't make it as bad, look at where the legs are. If he was straight down, you know what this reminds me of? Sabu and Benoit.
Mm.
That's the same kind of pogo stick bump. Thank God he's okay. Yes, Saturday night. Shotgun Saturday night. Good Lord. Right there.
I'm going to blow your mind here. He actually returned in 4 weeks.
I have no doubt.
Money.
He needed to make money, yeah.
So here's a quote from Henry O. Godwinn, not from my podcast, from a different one. I didn't stooge anybody out that night, Canterbury stated. He said that Road Warrior Hawk was not in the best shape mentally or physically at the time, as he'd been battling a very public battle with substance abuse. I knew the state Hawk was in, so I felt uncomfortable, so I didn't say nothing, Canterbury continued. But it happened, can't do nothing about it now. I wrestled 7 weeks with a broken neck, according... there we go, making a... That's not more of a quote. Hawk just didn't hit me right with enough force, Canterbury explained. He said that he asked not to take the flipping bump, but followed the move, also noting that Animal was able to give him the boost that he usually gives other smaller opponents. We're too big for that bump, is what Henry Godwinn said. And that would affect him for the rest of his career, which is very short, full-time. He'd have to retire the next year over it. And I think it caused further issues down the line, which for the life of me, I can't remember what they were. It might have involved a car crash or something. But anyway, if you go on WSI, Henry Godwinn, the neck break, the Legion of Doom bump, then on the WSI channel you'll find it. And it's a good clip as well. I'm sorry, I can't remember what he said off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Oh, he summarized.
Maybe we can play it in.
He summarized it a lot better and what exactly happened with that. And yeah, this was during the era where Hawk was having a lot of personal issues, and be able to trust somebody to do that. It looked like Hawk hit him with a good bit of momentum with the clothesline. And like he said, though, he's 320 pounds, right? It's going to be hard to flip a dude like that, even with as powerful as both of these guys are, especially Animal with his strength. You're still going to have something like this happen. So that sucks. That sucks because this dude, you know, he doesn't deserve that. And of course, compounding it with maybe a car wreck that, you know, really emphasized that injury even more.
Okay, so for the next What Went Wrong, this is back to WWE Raw this past Monday, and it's not something too obvious, except for the fact of the way Jey Uso reacts. It reminds me of Randy Orton with Mr. Kennedy in that ill-fated multi-man match that saw Kennedy end up getting his walking papers after that match because Randy Orton complained. So, it's LA Knight and Jey Uso, the semi-finals of the, what's it called? The Last Time Is Now tournament. And it's a superplex that I guess went a tiny bit wrong. So, Stevie, tell us what went wrong and also Jey Uso's reaction to it.
All right, let's take a look. By the way, I already forgot about this spot. So, modern wrestling, right? Let's take a look at this. Top. Whoa. I'm telling you what. There's a little bit of a what went right in there. Man, LA Knight, maybe that's why Jay's mad. He didn't wait. It wasn't 1, 2, 3, go, or 1, 2, after 3, like Lethal Weapon. Do we go on 3 or after 3? LA Knight literally suplexed him off the top rope. Watch this again. Jay's like, it's like, you're going. You're going, brother. What's his reaction? Might have really knocked the wind out of him. But do you see that? Like, usually the best one I've ever seen, we're going to say it again, Brett versus Owen, top rope superplex. And this is something that could be what went wrong on LA Knight for rushing it. I loved, one of my favorite things is when they're both standing on the top rope. I think Brett and Austin did it at WrestleMania 13 too, right? They stood on the top rope and we had a good, Brett and Owen, I think it was a good 5-10 seconds. And then they went because the people started to get to their feet. Like, oh my God, this is a big move. But let's go slow-mo, because if you notice, LA Knight kind of loses the footing for half a second, gets it. Jay's stepping up here, right? Usually what happens is when the base is here and then maybe the foot comes up to the top along with it, where all 4 feet are on the top turnbuckle. Then it's 1, 2, 3, go. But watch this, slow-mo. Nope, I'm just going. All I can think of here is that when Jay landed, now this could be storyline, Jay's frustration, you know what I mean? They're kind of blurring that line. But when he takes it, he hits it right here. And sometimes when you take a bump like this and then you kind of fold and sit up, it really knocks the wind out of you really bad. There's something about the momentum. I've taken this kind of even regular suplex bump, sit up and be like, oh man, like it just shook your organs. But this part here, I don't know if this is story. This could also be the edge. Remember I said Jay, when I saw the promos back in the COVID era, he had this edge about him, this hard edge where he was just kind of a rough character. I don't know if he's going back to that, but I want to see if he says anything to LA Knight. No, not really. So let's go back to this.
I think it's not just slapping the mat. It's the way he sort of repositions himself for the pin afterwards.
Yeah, this is very strange.
Whoop,
do you think that there's some conversation going on right here? Because LA Knight's crawling, but he could be saying something to him. Maybe he's saying roll to the corner.
Oh, he goes for a pin.
I know, it's weird. He didn't roll himself out or anything. But you see what I mean? Like, Jay was doing this. Then when he said something, he rolls suddenly. You notice that?
Mm.
To me, this isn't so much the Randy Orton stupid thing with Kofi or the Mr. Kennedy belly to back thing. But I will say this, I don't think Jay was ready. LA Knight just took him over, which is impressive. Look, just off of there, but Jay's foot, this foot is still planted here. That's a dead weight superplex in a way. I don't know. I still think we might be splitting hairs and kind of like that suspension of disbelief part, but I think this is part of Jay's descent into his heel character, his frustration. I don't know. I don't see anything that ain't but anything there that quite went wrong, but there is some weird where LA Knight says something and Jay rolls over all of a sudden for the pin. That there is kind of, the translation's kind of lost with me.
That's why I think there's a bit of petulance going on there. I think maybe he might have got a tiny bit of a brain buster or wasn't happy with the timing. Did LA Knight's foot actually... Did he misplace his feet briefly and that's why he rushed, do you think?
Let's see.
Or do you think maybe he was like leaning a little too far back and he just had to go then or he was going to lose it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like he's going to... He's really, really squatted down to where if he doesn't go right now and he goes to stand up, he could slip and go. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
That if he stands straight up, he doesn't feel like he's centered enough on the corner with the ropes in order to give them that base. So we got to go. And he might have said it, got to go. And Jay's like, no. But we're going. But he cleared it. It's not a brain buster. If anything, there could be a slight, like, you ever see the guys take a bump where they kind of roll and it just jacks their spine up and knocks the wind out of them. He didn't land high on the back. If anything, he rolled instead of a flat bump for Jay and him. So, yeah. I mean, it's a good protected superplex. They're both hooking each other. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. But yeah, Jay kind of threw a little mini temper tantrum.
That is so Randy Orton with Mr. Kennedy. That's like the exact same thing he did. And it seemed like a relatively safe move when Kennedy gave it to Orton as well. I don't know quite what's up there.
Well, here's something that if you want to, I like to dabble in my own, they call them media theories right now. So do you think in a weird way that right before that, and this is strictly pure speculation, fun speculation, not so fun for Jay, do you think they switched the finish on him?
Nah, I don't think so.
I'm just saying. I know the chances of that are slim to none, but they have done it. I've been in matches where they switched the finishes, they switched opponents, they've tested you, they've done all that stuff. Just something right there.
Because then he'd have to have a have a temper tantrum for 2 minutes on the outside as well. No, that was planned.
Okay.
And then they booked him in for a promo after the fact.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, why else would you throw a sudden temper? Unless, like I said, I'll go on my first theory. It's part of the descent of Jey Uso into being a heel. Because factor in this temper tantrum with the temper tantrum after the match and the promo after the match backstage. It kind of lines up. So it went into a what went right. I was just impressed that LA Knight just said, we're going, pal, whether you like it or not.
So we've got one more video to show you. It's a multi-part finish that sort of just gets more and more impressive the more you look at it. From WWE Raw also this past Monday. We've been very negative, admittedly so, on this episode, but we wanted to end it on a high, and there's some great things about modern wrestling. I think this is turns out to be an old Young Bucks spot that they ended up doing. This is AJ Styles and Dragon Lee, the current WWE Tag Team Champions, defending against the New Day. Stevie, have a look at this and tell me what went right.
Well, it's my pleasure to end this episode 74 of the Stevie Richards Show, on a positive note, on a right note, a what went right note. And yeah, I watched this about 5 or 6 times, and each time I as we say in wrestling, brother, I popped even louder each time for it. I want to do this, and let me know, you're the content ID copyright guy. You can't really immerse yourself in this spot unless I have audio of just how hard Dragon Lee kicked or stomped Kofi in the back. Did you hear that sound? It was like the loudest Gunther chop for that. Can we play it with audio?
Chris, play it with audio. Just do a
B-roll. I'm going to do it right here.
I'm
going to try right here. Oh, we got to go back and listen to that. I'm going to turn the volume up on the iPad because it is just brutal how brutal in a good way. Here we go again. Let's try it. Because it really does get the crowd to go, oh, with that. Oh, God. It is
Do you know what's amazing about that? It's almost a weird inverse of the Doomsday device, because you've got to hit them really hard to get that flip happening. Isn't that weird?
It is weird. I mean, the sound, even with this, I'm not turning up the volume enough. You have to go watch it on YouTube as well as here. Just the sound of the stomp is just the audible stomp, oh, that was a gasp from the crowd. Then a gasp again when AJ caught him. Then a gasp and a rumble and a standing on your feet when he hooked with the legs over the arms. Here we go. Crazy. There.
And there's a great dive as well. Everything works out.
That's the moment from the fans. You know what I mean? That they saw something special, a moment, a memory, and dare I say, this makeshift tag team of AJ Styles and Dragon Lee, stick with it. It's popular. I know AJ's on a retirement run or potential retirement run, but they are buying time for AJ to do half the work, get over, and have fun. Look at this. The stomp. Hey, you know what, too? I got to say this. It takes, in this case, 4, but in a way, 2. This stomp, Kofi on ropes. These ropes are not cables. Doing in slow motion. Kofi's the one giving himself the momentum as well to bounce off upside down in AJ. Look at the arms. He put himself there. And then the people, oh my God. And the timing from Dragon Lee to do the dive as AJ steps over, and we have no wasted movement, no wasted time, but we also have boom, 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 and we're home. 1, 2, and 3. You know what I mean? It's just when the crowd counts along with you like that, with that kind of enthusiasm, and then the pop, 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 count, big pop after the finish. Perfect, man.
I know you're very high on AJ Styles. You've worked with him, of course, but I mean, does it get lost in translation just because he's been on screen for decades at this point? Just how good he still is. And the same for Dragon Lee. How underappreciated that guy's been since he's been in WWE for the most part. Huge star in Mexico and an afterthought in WWE. I'm happy he's getting a bit more airtime these days.
Yeah, AJ's one of the best to ever do it. And the fact that I know for a fact that AJ's body has to be hurting. He has to be hurting. John Cena's hurting. Remember he said, I can't even do this. It hurts to wave in front of my hand. AJ still puts on the same, if not better, performances than he did during the TNA days, which you figure this dude's got to be in his mid to late 40s at minimum. And he's
48, 49.
He's wrestling at a better, higher level than he ever has been. Sure, he's hurting, but AJ, I mean, I got to say this, man. It's just, he's a unicorn. He's getting better. And obviously his body's hurting, but his stuff is getting more crisp. His stuff is making more sense. His stuff has psychology. And in this, they're doing stuff a tag team that's tagged up for years should be doing. What have they been tagging up for 3 months? It's amazing. It's amazing. Big fan. Friend of the show.
Terrible NFL Madden player, I believe.
Oh, God. I mean, it's just, it goes beyond the pale. As I switch cameras, because I want to come back on, because I need to emphasize, this is why we're so objective. This is why we're right down the middle, call it down the middle, just like the referees in Madden when I crushed them every single game. I'm just happy he's a great wrestler, because if he had to rely on winning Madden tournaments, he'd be poverty stricken.
Absolutely. Absolutely indeed.
You know why that match was awesome?
Yes.
Because Charles Robinson didn't ref it.
How is Charles?
Who cares?
I mean, in his lair, in his hollowed out volcano.
You know what? He doesn't care how we are. He's doing fine. He texted me he loved me yesterday, and I go, with people that love me like you, I don't need enemies.
Absolutely. Right, we shall do the outro. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching us once again. We will be with you all through Christmas, so don't worry about that. We've got you covered with Stevie Richards content throughout the month of December and beyond, of course. So it's all that's left to say for me is that we're out every single Friday. Apart from in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be out on Monday instead, because we're going to be covering as quickly or as short a turnover as we possibly can for John Cena's final match at Saturday night's main event. We're going to do a full review of that show instead of the usual Friday show. So, until next Friday, and once again, we're out every single day on YouTube as well with a fresh clip. All that is left to say is thank you once again for watching, and over to Stevie to thank the Patreon fans as well.
Well, I'm going to repeat and echo what James said. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Please subscribe, click the bell to get notified. And actually, if I can say it with my Philly accent, subscribe, click the bell to get notified. And of course, comment below. We are just taken back with, might be up to 2,000 comments right now on the Modern Wrestling clip. And we're going to have a continuation of reading those comments as well as your fan questions at the end of the year and moving forward. Thank you so much also for an amazing 2025, and especially want to thank our Patreon members, the $1 thank you brother tier, the $8 producer tier, and also we talked about on Patreon about how we're going to fill in the end of the year. We may have not a watch along, but I will be bringing back the classes, the curriculum, the wrestling analysis to Patreon. Please stay tuned for that. We appreciate all the support. Patreon.com/Stevie Richards. Remember, watch alongs every single Monday. Also, show notes every Wednesday, and pre-show, the show before the show, on Fridays. And in the coming days and weeks, I will torture everybody when I break down the studio and rebuild it once again. Also here on YouTube, please stay tuned. We will have an end of the year behind-the-scenes tour because I upgraded the equipment, hardware, and software. With James's permission, he's the boss. But thank you very much for watching this episode. Thank you very much for supporting us on Patreon. Catch us next week for episode 75 of the Stevie Richards Show. Who knows what it'll be, whatever James decides. And